Ex-wife and I slept together. Hey guys, long post but the details are important. My ex, 47F, and I, 45M, have been divorced for 3 years and have 2 sons, Wyatt and Jack. Our split was mainly due to our kids and the different parenting styles. My ex is a genius, she's a PhD and a research scientist while I'm an analyst. She grew up with colder parents who instilled strict routine and discipline to be successful, while I grew up with a very close relationship to my parents who encouraged forming my own path in life. These two backgrounds came head to head when it came to our own kids, especially when they started school. My ex wanted them completely focused on academics while I wanted them to live a little and let them enjoy being kids and have them figure things out on their own a little. After months of fighting, we decided that it wasn't going to work. Our split was amicable, and she actually paid way more child support than she had to but insisted on it. We even spend Christmas and birthdays all together for the sake of our kids. Our sons primarily live with me by their own choice, and while my ex does see them about once a week, my kids are teenagers now, and sometimes they want the weekends to themselves. My older one, Wyatt, has said to me that sometimes he feels like it's my ex's own fault because of how hard she was on them. I try to remind them that she's still their mother and she was doing what she believed was best, and at the very least he owes her respect. This brings us to a few days ago. Since both kids are on break, my ex tries to stop by on the weekdays to try and see them more. She stopped by but both kids were out with friends for the evening. She had come all the way, so I invited her in for a drink. We were just chatting and eventually we started looking at old baby photos of our kids. We had a lot of laughs until we got to one picture. It was a picture of when my sons were 6 and 2 and I had them both up on each shoulder and the 3 of us were laughing. My ex just started sobbing out of nowhere and started apologizing to me for everything. I was really confused, but I hugged her and told her that she only did what she thought was best and that she shouldn't apologize for trying to be an involved parent. We stayed there for a while but neither of us wanted to let go. Eventually she looked up at me and her look reminded me of when we were dating. We started kissing and things escalated. It was like the 12 years of our marriage came flooding back, and during, my ex kept tearing up and telling me she loved me. TLDR, ex-wife and I had an amicable divorce 3 years ago, slept together, and now she wants to talk. Notable comments. Commenter: you sound like a lovely person. Now as far as reconciliation, because I feel like there's more than you are mentioning in this post, you guys got divorced because she was hard on the children and was the stereotypical Asian parent view, whereas you chose a more relaxed let them be kids approach. Normally you want a mixture of both to instill good study habits as well as independence. So my question is, at this meeting that you will attend, what happens if you two get together? Will there be compromise? Is she only coming back because she realizes her kids don't talk to her anymore? What has she been up to the last 3 years? I feel like there is more being withheld, because jumping to divorce over a compromise of parenting styles seems very odd. Editor's note: I don't know where this commenter got Asian from, I couldn't find a single confirmation for this. The rest still stands. Commenter: whether or not y'all give it another shot is entirely up to the two of you, since you split amicably and obviously still care about each other. It's really just going to come down to whether or not you feel like your differences are irreconcilable. But I will say this, if you do give things another shot, take it very, very slow. You'll also have to run a balancing act of when you tell your kids, do it too early and you risk things going badly and it blowing up in your faces, do it too late, and you risk your kids feeling betrayed for being kept in the dark. You good luck. Commenter: just go see her and figure it out. You definitely still have strong feeling for her and her for you. Your kids are older and would appreciate more that you tried than not trying. They have multiple things, events, graduation, wedding, childbirth, etc., in the future that would much easier if you two were together for them. Don't use the kids as an excuse. Do you want to be with her? It's definitely worth exploring. My parents are back together 45 years after they divorced, and it pissed me off for a while because of all the drama I lived through with step-parents at the time. I am 50 now. You both sound like great people that both love your kids. If you want to see how trauma affect kids, read my posts. Go for it, nothing is guaranteed. Frosty_lawyer_2528. Reconciliation might be worth trying, but keeping separate living arrangements until the children move out is probably best. Update. Hi everyone. I know it's been a little bit, but I have an update to my last post. First of all, thank you to everyone. Your guys gave some great advice and really helped me prepare for the conversation with my ex. I met up with my ex 2 days after getting the text from her. I went over to her apartment and we had a great talk. About a year after the divorce, my ex actually went to see a therapist to sort of get an understanding of where her life was. As she kept going and discussing things from her childhood, she realized she was doing the same things to our kids that her parents did to her. Things that ultimately made her resent her parents, which was why she was actually closer to my mom than her own. She teared up a bit and told me she never stopped loving me and that regardless of what a document says I would always be her husband. My ex admitted that on the night the incident happened, she knew the boys would be out and she wanted to spend some time with me alone. When we started looking at old pictures she got overwhelmed. She told me how much she missed me and would do anything it took to make it up and at the very least be partners again. I told her that I always cared about her and that I missed her too and that I still felt something for her. At the end of the evening we both came to terms that we still loved each other and would give it another shot. The terms were that we take it slow and regularly attend couple counseling as well as to not to tell the kids yet. Since then we have been spending almost every day together and we actually had our first counseling session. It went pretty well even after everything that happened and my ex and I were really able to establish the grounds of our new old relationship. We are going to be going to more sessions but it's a good start. I actually hosted a family dinner a couple nights ago. While our boys still don't know about us I made the excuse that it would be good for the four of us to have a meal together. And honestly my wife really has changed. She was more open with the kids and was more interested in hearing about things like sports, hanging out with friends, and hobbies. My kids responded really well and for the first time in a while our sons were enthusiastically engaging and connecting with their mom. She also planned a trip to the zoo for the four of us like we used to do when the boys were young. I think my older one got a little suspicious and rolled with it but the fact that we have cooperated so well has been a great cover. Things are good now and I think deep down neither of us truly fell out of love and I think we would have eventually found our way back to each other regardless of what happened that night. Thank you guys again for all your kind words and support. Stories number 2. My 34M wife, 34F, of 15 years won't forgive me but also don't let me divorce her. I am 34, and my wife, F34, have been together for 15 years, since the start of the uni married for 8 years. We grow together, graduated together, we moved city together, we built family together also I was her first with everything. I am trying to cut it short. I can remember multiple conflicts between us during our whole relationship, but I already admitted them I think. She was the dominant side all the time. After our marriage, I begged her to have a child and she was delaying it all the time. After a while, we decided to finally try for it, and then surprise, we couldn't have one. We had really hard time during the whole infertility process and 3 unsuccessful IVFs already lots of tears and blaming everything. I begged her to start some sport, to become healthier. She never ever walked more than a mile in her life. I really enjoy sports. I begged her to have a hobby, but she told me she only enjoys time when I am home. I already worked at 2 jobs and earn almost all our money. She worked in home office when I was finally at home from work, I couldn't go to the gym or have rest or something, because she told me she was waiting me all day. So we did what she wanted. Life has changed when 4 years ago she get pregnant somehow spontaneously and we had our son. We were the happiest. I loved them more than I could imagine. My son is the middle of my world, but after our son's birth nothing was as I expected. She wanted me to get up for the baby all the time at night because she needs sleep. So nights were fully mine. She also wanted me to spend all the afternoon taking care of my son because she told me she was with him all day. She never made us food, never cleaned the house, she didn't have to, we had a lady to do them. It was okay for me, I wanted her to feel good. I also suggested daycare but she refused. I was horrible tired for working in 2 jobs and also doing this much with our son, especially because of the up all nights. I made a lot of mistakes at work. I tried to communicate everything with my wife multiple times, for months, but she is the proudest and most stubborn person I ever met, with a really conservative family behind her, so nothing happened. She just got angry. She took everything as an attack. Then I had an affair. Only one woman but for months. Both emotional and physical. I was so stupid. I don't want to blame my wife, it was my fault, but I felt unheard and really unhappy. I never had time for anything I liked. I felt like I am her robot. When she asked if something happened, I admitted her. I broke contact with the woman and started therapy, and it was 10 months ago already. I had to move out right after. And since then, we are at nowhere. My wife says I destroyed their life, she just says that, nothing else. I am living in a rented place and she lives with our kid at our big house. She don't want to even hear about divorce or selling the house. She couldn't pay the loans and etc. She wants to stay there in our house, and let me be with my son when she feels like that. And refuses it if Ahe feels like that. She also had a short relationship already with a man but ended it. I considered that it was just to make me angry. She also don't want to hear about reconcile. But that kills me. I want a solution. I love my son so much now I feel like I could deal with an unloving marriage because I don't want to be a part-time dad. I promised everything to my wife I could but I also don't want him to develop issues with future relationships because he sees our bad marriage. I would be the happiest if my wife could change a bit but she is in therapy since then and she never admits any of the problems I told her. She just repeats that I cheated. I destroyed. She can't forgive. She can't divorce because she says I destroyed our life and my son deserves to live in the big house and I need to pay the loans for a lifetime because I am the one who messed up. But with this solution I can't move on, I can't have a home, I can't be with my son in my own place. I am paying insane amounts of loans for a house I am not living in. I suggested cutting everything in half but she refuses. She says she wants to stay there in our house. She says I should be already happy that she let me be with my son at all and she can reduce my time with my son easily. I can't start the lawsuit against her because I still have hope that maybe I could live with my son again. Not being with him every morning kills me. He is my everything. Do you think is there any chance she will forget? Maybe marriage counseling would help. What now? What do you think? Edit. Thank you for the replies already. I am replying to the most common advices or topics. Am I sure if the child is mine? I haven't done a DNA test but honestly he is the copy of me, we look so similar now so no doubt it's mine. Just divorce her. I filled the divorce but she refuses to sign it. Now the only way is going through a long process of lawsuit which can take years, or the other solution would be finally agreeing with the 50% to 50% custody money. But she wants more from both. About therapy, I am in individual therapy since I moved out, 10 months. She is also. I told her to decide if I fill the divorce right now or we start marriage counseling and she chooses MC but told the MC on the first day she will never forgive. Messy timeline. English is not my first language, as you guessed already. Comments about my previous posts. I asked my sister to post this after multiple failed attempts because my Reddit account was too young and had no karma. I would be the happiest man alive if this post was fake. Stories number 3. My husband doesn't see how his work wife is trying to destroy our marriage. I, 31F, am at my wit's end with my husband's, 32M, co-worker Sarah, 30F, and his complete inability to see what's happening. I'm not usually one for Reddit, but I need to know if I'm going crazy here. Where do I even start? 3 years ago, my husband Mark started working with Sarah. At first, I tried to be welcoming. I invited her to our BBQs, included her in group outings, and genuinely tried to be friendly. Big mistake. She spent the entire time making backhanded comments about everything from my career. Oh, you're just a yoga instructor. How peaceful. To my cooking, I guess not everyone can master basic seasoning. The real problem is that Mark thinks she's just being funny. Last month, she literally threw away the anniversary mug I gave him because it clashed with the office aesthetic. When I got upset, Mark said I was being too sensitive and that Sarah just has high standards for office decor. It was a mug with our wedding photo on it. Some greatest hits from Sarah. She scheduled a mandatory work dinner on our anniversary. She convinced Mark not to take a promotion because it would mean working with a different team. She posts daily photos of them together with hashtags like work power couple and work spouse. She tells everyone at their office that she takes better care of him than I do. She changed his coffee order and now tells everyone she trained him right. The worst part? My husband is completely blind to all of this. Yesterday, he actually told me about how Sarah said our new house, which we spent months searching for, was charming, in a starter home kind of way. He repeated this while laughing. I tried talking to him about it, but Sarah has convinced him I'm just insecure. She's managed to insert herself into every aspect of our lives. They text constantly even on weekends. She knows his schedule better than I do. She rearranged his entire desk and office wardrobe because his style was too suburban husband. That's what he is. Last week, I suggested marriage counseling. He looked genuinely confused. He of course went and talked to Sarah about it. I found out from another coworker that she's been telling people that Mark and I are going through a rough patch and that she's just being a good friend by giving him someone to talk to. We weren't going through anything until she started this nonsense. The breaking point. I stopped by his office to surprise him with lunch. I know, but it was his birthday and Sarah was supposedly out sick. Guess who was there? Sarah. She'd miraculously recovered and bought him a cake that said, "To my work hubby," with a photo of them from the office holiday party. She saw me and said, "Oh, Amy, you came too, how nice. Mark, you didn't tell me your real wife was coming. I'm not crazy, right?" This woman is trying to destroy my marriage while my husband stands there grinning like it's all some big joke. What do I do? Divorce seems extreme, but I'm running out of options here. TLDR, my husband's work wife is actively trying to sabotage our marriage while he remains completely oblivious to her obvious manipulation. ETA, I should have stated that the promotion wasn't one that would increase his salary but his title. It would give him more leadership experience. It still blows my mind that he turned it down just so he could stay on the same team as her. ETA, I should have told the mug story in its entirety. She accidentally broke the mug. I noticed it was gone when I was visiting him one day and I asked him about it. He said she accidentally knocked it over and then later he repeated a joke she made about how it didn't fit the office aesthetic. Top comments. Commenter 1. Sarah would not be able to sabotage your marriage if your husband wasn't allowing it. Commenter 2. You have a husband problem. Go to counseling and get professional help to communicate your concerns. Remind him that he's married to you, not Sarah, so her opinions shouldn't matter when it comes to your marriage. Good luck, but be prepared for the worst. Commenter 3. Yeah, this guy isn't oblivious, he's complicit. He knows what's happening, and he likes the attention. He is happy to let his GF disrespect his wife. Update. Hi. I, 31F, posted a few days ago. I really didn't expect my post to blow up the way it did. I got so overwhelmed by all the comments that I haven't responded to any. I want to address everyone who says it's fake. I understand why you think that, but this is my personal hell. I only listen to Reddit stories on TikTok, but when this reached its boiling point, I just needed a place to talk. So I made an account and tried to yell into the void. Well, the void turned out to be less empty than I thought. Now, to why everyone is here, the update. Before I talked to my husband, 32M, I decided to do some investigation. I started with his phone and read all the messages between him and Sarah. She badmouthed me a few times, he did nothing to defend me but didn't engage either. She was flirty, he wasn't really flirty back. They talked a lot, and he praised her frequently for her work ethic and intelligence. I didn't see anything about cheating. I checked his email, nothing. I checked his work email, nothing. I looked through our other devices, nothing. I searched high and low for a second phone, nothing. Everything I found was always dancing that line. Nothing was outright cheating, but here are the things I found that did hurt my feelings. He has lunch with her, and only her, every day in the office. They don't really like anyone else, so they'll criticize others and say, let's talk more at lunch, they're serving XYZ today. He'd say things like, I'm sure if you were a wife, you would XYZ. He always kept it as, a wife and not, my wife, but it still upset me. She admitted to breaking the mug on purpose. He didn't get upset with her, just said, yeah, the photo gifs are kind of corny. I confronted him, I laid it all out, and while he wasn't upset, he did try to brush things off. He said I was being sensitive and overreacting. I told him if we didn't have a real conversation about this, I would file for divorce. That got his attention, and he sat down with me. He admitted that at first, he found it odd that Sarah was trying so hard, he saw her trying hard with all the men in the office. The more attention she gave him, the more he enjoyed it, and the more he responded, the more attention she gave, until she just had her sights on him. He knew some of the other men were envious, and he liked that too. He admitted that eventually, he just got too deep. He said he knew it was wrong but had gotten addicted to the attention and didn't want her to move on to another man. So he indulged her sometimes at my expense. He said it was just nice to have two women in the two major parts of his life, stating that he knew we'd rarely see one another, so what was the harm? He reiterated that he never ever physically cheated with her but admitted it could be called an emotional affair. It was painful, I won't hide that. I mean really painful, like I wasn't enough. I told him from this point on, he needed to stop communicating with Sarah and ask to be transferred or switch jobs altogether. Now folks, I mean it when I tell you this, he lost his shit. He began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated, it was all above board, and I couldn't control who he talked with at work. He called me a narcissist and a control freak. He told me I had no idea how hard it was, how much stress he had in the office, and that his personal relationship with Sarah helps a lot, taking it away would just damage his mental health. It got so bad that I started crying. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to leave. I packed a small bag and called my MIL, she's the only family I have here. I gave her a rundown of what was going on, and she offered her home to me. I'm staying here and just hoping my husband calms down so we can revisit this. I want to work it out, I love him more than anything. I will try harder to answer comments on this post, and I will definitely update if something new happens. This has been really therapeutic and makes me feel less alone. TLDR, I confronted my husband about his work wife, and he lost it on me. Now I'm staying with my MIL. Top comments. Commenter 1. Welp, I kind of figured he wasn't that clueless. This is a full-blown emotional affair. From experience, things will only escalate they are in bed together. Protect your peace, because he sure doesn't give a damn about your feelings. Stay strong. Commenter 2. Jumped right from admitted it could be called an emotional affair to he began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated. OP made a valiant effort, but it doesn't seem like this marriage can be saved. Additional comments from OOP about her MIL. My MIL is on my side and told me point blank that he is wrong. However, she said she doesn't want to get in the middle because she doesn't want to damage the relationship with either one of us. She told me I'm welcome as long as I need, but she won't bring anything up to her son until he brings it up to her. My MIL agrees his actions are wrong but doesn't want things to escalate or to damage her relationship with either one of us, so she is staying out of it unless he contacts her. As for my husband, he has tried to reach out. He's called, left message, texted. I let him know I was safe and left it at that. He will message or call every few hours but we haven't talked. Update 2. Well, I'm back. First, I want to address some of the negative comments. To all the people saying they're Team Sarah and hoping Sarah and my husband get together, I even saw a nasty comment saying Sarah and my husband would be the office power couple. How can you sit here and say nothing's going on? You claim my husband didn't cheat and I'm being crazy, yet in the same breath wish they would get together. You're contradicting yourself because deep down you know something romantic was developing. Now for the update. My husband came to my MIL's house, she didn't call him. He knew I was there because I told him, and he said he wanted to talk. Some big things happened in such a short time, he wanted to explain. According to my husband, after I left, he started to reflect, he did call his mom and they had a long talk. I didn't know any of this. She asked him if he was happy with me and he said yes, but I made him extremely happy. I was a good wife and a great partner. This is kind of what it all sunk into him, that he was being juvenile for wanting attention from another woman. I did ask him why he always brushed things off and never took action before. He said he couldn't explain it, it just felt good. He assured me he never wanted to sleep with her and never advanced things that way. It was just nice having someone around who was fawning over him, like a fan. For those who said he didn't know what an emotional affair was and was just agreeing with me, you were right. He admitted he didn't really understand what an emotional affair was, but after looking it up, he agreed that's what it was, though unintentional. He said he didn't want to lose his friend, so he just went along with a lot of what she did. He admitted he was deep into a fog, but me leaving and this conversation with his mom was the one thing that brought him out of it. He said he didn't want to fight. My husband is big on giving me my space, so when I left he didn't chase after me because he thought it would be best for us to just cool down and think about this and hopefully come back and discuss it more rationally. He did reach out to Sarah. Though they didn't meet in person, they had a phone call. He told her they couldn't remain as close, that their out-of-office texts and calls needed to stop, that he would get a replacement mug she wasn't to touch, and that they needed to cut back on their lunches. He wanted to handle this before talking to me, to show he was serious. Sarah didn't take it well. She started berating me, saying I was forcing him to do this. My husband stopped her and said no, he was doing this because his marriage was important. He admitted letting things go too far but clarified he had no romantic interest in her. He told her if she had feelings for him, she needed to distance herself immediately. Sarah ended up ruining their friendship herself. Though my husband was willing to maintain a more distant friendship, her comments about me and him, claiming she'd never want him and that everything she did was because she knew we weren't meant to be together, and she was trying to open his eyes. He said he couldn't believe he'd never seen how vindictive and awful she was almost venomous. It didn't end well. After handling that situation, he came to see me, wanting to ensure I knew he understood and was taking the proper steps. He said we could do whatever I needed. I know some of you will say I'm wrong, that divorce is the only option because he had an emotional affair. I'm sorry to disappoint, but I'm not divorcing my husband. I told him we needed counseling for both of us. Yes, going through all his devices, emails, and texts might have been extreme. He agreed it felt like a breach of privacy but understood given the circumstances. I told him we both needed to work on things. As of right now, I guess you could say that we're separated. We're not staying in the same house. We're going to attend counseling. I don't want to just jump back into things with him. I don't want it to seem like it was okay to make me feel like I was the second option, to ignore all those red flags and to brush me off. This has to be worked on. I'm leaving his mother's house and staying with a friend. I'm not sure if anyone's going to want an update after this. Sorry it's so anticlimactic, sorry it's the typical. Oh, you just got back together. I mean it is, but it isn't. I love my husband. I know he loves me. I don't think everything is an end-all be-all. Yes, it's a terrible situation. Yes, he did a terrible thing, but I want my marriage to last, so we're giving it another go. I genuinely hope this is my last update, but if it's not, y'all will know. Thank you for all the messages. All the support, everything, it really has been a huge help. Top comments. Commenter 1. Honestly, this was the update I was hoping for. I'm happy he recognized it and that you two are working for your marriage. All the best, and I hope your marriage is stronger after this episode. Commenter 2. Glad to hear that the fog is lifting. I hope he sticks to his word and distances himself from Sarah. I would even involve HR to let them know what is going on in case she gets vindictive and tries to cause trouble at work. I'm happy to hear that you're proceeding cautiously. I hope everything goes well for you in the end. Update 3. We are continuing our work-wife saga. As a lot of you predicted in my last update, Sarah wasn't happy about my husband ending their friendship and trying to put a distance between him and her. I seriously thought she was going to reach out to me, but she never did. Why? Because this was never about me. I was not even on her radar except for somebody to tear down. I will give Sarah one thing. She is extremely efficient. She started her campaign long before Monday morning. Over the weekend she reached out to several of my husband's coworkers, mostly male. She told them that my husband had randomly stopped being friends with her and she suspected it was my fault. She said she couldn't believe it. Everyone knew how close they were. She just felt bad for him. Wanted to be a friend for him and hopefully he help him out of our terrible marriage. She went on and on about how she couldn't believe how much this is going to affect her during her working hours, that she didn't know if she can continue working at this job. One of the female workers at my husband's job messaged me all of this. As a lot of you predicted, she is gearing up to accuse my husband of sexual harassment. Monday alone she has put herself in the path of my husband multiple times. It kind of feels like she's setting up to do, and he said she said argument, because she's doing a lot of odd things, at least according to my husband. Think stuff like intentionally following my husband into a room or a section of the office that is somewhat closed off, accidentally emailing him or forwarding him things, going to his cubicle multiple times a day for no reason, sitting close to him in meetings. It seems harmless, but really it feels like she's gearing up for something. My husband did go to HR first thing Monday morning, and like I kind of thought, they pretty much said they can't do anything unless it affects work or working hours. His HR is not the greatest. He did let them know what she was doing today, but honestly I don't think they took him seriously. We've been thinking about moving. The only thing that keeps us here is really his mom. So he might just transfer jobs. We're not really sure. I hope things don't escalate anymore, and since he went to HR already, I'm hoping that nothing big happens. I'd like to give a little update about our counseling. To all the people who tell me that I'm making a mistake by giving my husband another chance and trying to work it out. I am so happy I don't listen to you. I understand it was a shitty situation. I lived through it. I know it is. I know how it felt, but counseling has revealed a lot about my husband that I didn't even know. Apparently he was bullied severely in high school and he kind of went through a little glow up when he went into college. Sarah is definitely one of those stereotypical blonde pretty girls, and my husband admits that it did kind of feel like he finally got his chance to be popular in a social setting. My husband admitted that Sarah basically mirrored everything about him. His likes, his dislikes. She talked to him like he walked on water. It definitely sounded like she was boosting his ego in a manipulative fashion. Like I said, I understand this isn't just a forgive and move on kind of situation, but hearing my husband talk about it, how it felt, the way it affected him, it made me have a lot more sympathy for him. I still haven't come back home, but we're doing it one day at a time. I went and had lunch with him on Monday and I'm going again today. I'm trying to be there for him so he doesn't feel alone. I'm really ready for all this to die down. I'm hoping it doesn't get taken farther at work, but if it does, we'll deal with it. Commenter: your husband should be documenting everything, in writing as it occurs, and then provide it to management. Stories number 4. My partner left me, so I told everyone he doesn't have cancer. My partner told me when we first got together that he has cancer, and if his operation doesn't go well, it could be terminal. He said his treatments have also made him infertile, so imagine our shock and joy when we found out I was expecting at the start of 2024. We now have a beautiful 5-month-old daughter who is perfectly healthy and thriving, and he is in remission. My pregnancy was difficult and lonely because of all the intense treatments he went through while waiting for his operation. I did a lot on my own, knowing he desperately needed this to have the best chance possible of shrinking his tumor before having it removed, so we can have a long, happy life together as a family. He is currently living with his mom while he is in recovery, so that it takes the pressure off me caring for both him and our baby until he is well enough to move into our new home with us. He still comes to our house and we go to his mam's all the time so our baby isn't missing him, and on Wednesdays he has his daddy-daughter days where it is just the two of them to make sure they are bonding well, and he has the practice until he is well enough to care for her at home full time, and give me a little break too. Last week we had an attempted break-in at the house. Editor's note: OOP posted about that a few days ago but it was deleted. I asked him to come over and stay here while I'm waiting for the locks to be changed because I'm scared, but he wouldn't. I was talking to his mam too, who slipped up telling me he wasn't home. Long story short, this is Reddit. I'm sure you can see where this is going. We argued for over 24 hours before my suspicions became too much and I went to Facebook. It took me less than an hour to find the first two women. During my pregnancy I was suspicious of a lot of things and put it all down to my hormones, as he would continuously tell me that I am paranoid and hurting him when I ask. One thing my paranoia just wouldn't let up about was his cancer and his treatments. I asked his mam about it, who told me he doesn't have cancer but he is having treatments. He has an autoimmune disease which he receives transfusions for. Very serious but nowhere near terminal and no operations required. She also informed me he was in rehab, not hospital. He was addicted to cocaine and was trying to recover for me and our baby. I never mentioned to him that I knew. I assumed it was the embarrassment of wanting to get clean without me knowing so he could be a good partner and dad. I was so proud of him for getting that help that I never spoke about it. With his autoimmune disease, his mam explained how brutal it has been for him and that he did have chemo a few years back, so maybe that's why he's confused. Pregnancy brain is a real thing, or maybe I'm just too blindly in love because I accepted this and never questioned it again. After discovering the first two women, I sent my partner a message telling him to let his girlfriend know I'm asking after her and not to bother coming home anymore. I've had the locks changed from the break-in so he can't get in. He panicked and started begging me to answer the phone and let him come see me so he could explain everything. I started to see everything through clear eyes for the first time and realized how long he had been gaslighting me for, and told him no. Realizing he couldn't get through to me and now aware I was trying to contact his girlfriend, he panicked and went to her instead. During that time, I found a photo she had shared of the two of them and shared it to my profile with the caption, "Can someone please ask this woman to contact me?" She instantly blocked me, but her sister got in touch with me instead. Apparently the family have never trusted him and knew something was wrong. This affair is serious enough to have met the family. She says he has told her not to speak to me as I'm a deranged stalker he slept with once years ago and have been hunting him down trying to convince people my baby is his. I sent her a photo of the birth certificate and us in hospital together to show her sister before he can lie to her anymore. During this, I am also messaging another woman who is furious at what he has done and is helping me with all the information she is aware of. She tells me he broke her heart by cheating on her without even knowing he was cheating on me too. So far I have the current timeline: chemo in March. A 19-year-old, rehab in April, July. A woman of an appropriate age this time but also cheating on her. August, now, his 20-year-old girlfriend. I then find out his emergency cancer medication that he had to leave for in the middle of labor was actually the fact my two failed epidurals. Screaming in agony begging the doctors to help because I thought I was dying while the emergency team rushed in to place extra monitors on our baby in distress was actually just a huge turn on for him, so he needed to go sleep with a 20-year-old before making it back just in time to kiss me before I went into emergency surgery. This was Sunday, it is now Saturday the following week. I made a post on Facebook calling out my partner for his actions, with photographs, medical notes, and evidence, and asking people to leave me alone on Tuesday after 48 hours of no sleep, multiple calls to the crisis team and a barrage of harassment from his friends and family who want to sue me for character defamation. If this was a regular affair, I'd lick my wounds and move on, but I have now learned I have been leaving my daughter alone with a drug addict who is claiming he doesn't know me or his daughter to others but demanding custody rights to me. Tens of women have now come forward who have also dated him during our relationship with no idea of me or each other. This is obviously really upsetting, but what upsets me the most is that I begin to notice a very worrying pattern. He has told every single one of these women that he has cancer and can't get them pregnant. I said my labor and delivery was difficult. I was induced due to an infection I had. My GP had told me I had an STI, and although I understood and took the treatment and was induced, my madly in love pregnancy brain never accepted it as an STI until I went back this week and checked my hospital discharge notes and it was there in big bold letters. Sensitive. Partner STI. He has been telling women that he has cancer and can't get them pregnant so they don't need protection, which led to an STI which almost killed me and his daughter in labor, and he wasn't even there to be with us because he was sleeping with a young girl who also believes he has cancer. I decided to let everyone know that he in fact does not have cancer by using a screenshot of his mam's messages. All the women he has slept with to make sure they take a pregnancy and STI test, all his friends who he has been guilting for years over his condition, and also social services and the police for sexual endangerment. Me and my daughter now have safeguarding in place for us from a local organization for women leaving abusive relationships, so I feel very safe to reveal the truth about him and make sure all of his partners are safe and informed, seeing as he couldn't uphold his legal obligation of declaring an STI. I guess his postpartum girlfriend will do it for him. I have also had contact from many of his old friends, band members and ex-partners who have all gave me testimonies to use for the police and as backup for if his mother does in fact try to sue me. This man has been lying and manipulating women for over 9 years. So far everyone is now aware of his lies and I am waiting for my in-person meeting with the police. I can't imagine any updates from here as it will only be a legal battle that probably can't be shared, but if anything else of interest comes to, I will make sure to write about it. Oh, also, my partner is a primary school teacher. Some of OOP's comments. It's come to light this week that his ex-partners have been reporting him for years to no avail. His ma'am is on the school board and her best friend is his head teacher. I'm hoping with the added element of social services this time and an investigation into child endangerment for our daughter, they can't sweep it under the carpet any longer. Escalating the situation. We're in the UK, his complaints have been escalated to LADO in the past, which is basically our version of what controls the school's judgment over any dangerous situations, but nothing happened. One of his exes have gave me all the details of their report to push that they ignored her and it's escalated to this. Commenter, feel like we need a full name and link to his Facebook, or at very least to make sure he is up on Prick Advisor. Reply. He deleted his Facebook after I made a post on there. He is the most convincing person you have ever met, but for the first time, someone proved him wrong by posting medical evidence and he couldn't take it. I'm waiting on approval to join Prick Advisor UK and Are We Dating the Man Same Northeast to warn all the other women I couldn't find myself. Commenter, what STI did he pass to you? Has your baby been tested and or treated? Reply, at the time I refused further testing in denial and regret it so much. I was just given a course of antibiotics and because my symptoms went, they left it at that for me. All I know is from the STI being untreated for so long I ended up with strep group B2, which is why I needed to be induced, so I was on an antibiotic drip when my waters were broken so my baby would be safe. She's perfectly healthy and faced no issues luckily. I think I've been lucky and whatever is was must not have turned to an STD because my medical documents only say, partner STI. We also haven't slept together for a very long time now after my surgery, so I know I'm at least safe now. Commenter, how does he manage his time? Like, is his superpower time management? A full-time job which requires extra hour work, a baby, a GF, a mother, many lovers. Reply, he would disappear from time to time and switch his phone off a lot. Not living together was a huge help for him. He would tell me he needed set days and time etc. as he can only work in routines for his recovery. Obviously I can look back now and see that really, he just needed to know which girl was where and when. I've been told by multiple people now that he will often just don't turn up to work because he's on a bender or at a woman's house, and I was kept in the dark because his mam's best friend is the head teacher and would cover for him. Commenter, he's a serial adulterer, he spreads STIs, he lies about having cancer, he's a primary school teacher and he's in a band. Reply, was in a band. I've just found out this week that he wasn't kicked out in 2019 for having cancer like he told me, but kicked out in 2018 when his abusive behavior towards women was exposed and they cut all ties with him except one band member who didn't believe it and never mentioned anything about it to me or gave me the heads up. Commenter, is your BF my ex? Cause my ex was also a drug addict who faked cancer and other health problems, while abusing me physically, mentally and sexually. Reply, if he lives in the UK and used to be in a feminist punk band then there's a good chance. I'm so sorry for your experience and hope you've healed X. Commenter, the Daily Mail would be all over this. Reply, they would. I've shown my social worker what I've shared online so far, and as no one has been named or can be identified on here that's okay, and I've been extremely polite about the situation and only exposed myself on Facebook, so they're okay with me sharing that, but for the sake of not giving him any more ammo or information to use in his defense, I need to be careful until the investigations are over. I wouldn't want to mess up my case and have him teaching for another 6 years like the last time he was reported. Commenter, make it public, make sure parents know and that the head of the school board has been protecting him. Reply, sadly I think parents are aware and not receiving help from the school in the situation. One woman he dated during the summer and she realized who he was when she went to drop her child off at school in September. She's been updating me to let me know that he wasn't seen in school for multiple days after my health visitors and social worker began the reports on Monday, but he was back in half a day Friday. Update, I've spoken to the police this morning. There is nothing they can do unless they find the drugs on his person in the school, so nothing is stopping him snorting a line before he starts work as long as he takes nothing else with him. They've implied the loophole is that they catch him behind the wheel, and if some reported him driving on drugs, they could catch him that way. They said they can confirm that multiple reports and investigations have begun before even my report, so they are unable to share much information with me. Even thought he case involves me, but they told me it is imperative I apply for Claire's Law and have helped me with the application. It can take up to 10 days for my in-person meeting to provide my documents, and then it can take several weeks for the information to be shared with me. Knowing what I do already, I feel sick that they have told me how important it is for me to make this application. I can't believe in a few weeks, he's going to disgust me even further when I receive his police records. My only silver lining is that once I have the police reports, on top of my medical reports, he doesn't stand a chance in family court and me and my girl will be free to restart our lives together. Also another little note, I've been looking for family court advice in a ma'am support group and have been informed that luckily she's only 5 months old and any name changes can be made before 6 months with only one parent's consent and the witnesses don't need to be his choice, so I will be removing his surname and his grand's name from her middle name, for her to take my surname and not have any more ties to his family. I just wanted to put an apology in here as well as a lot of people have commented on my poor writing. I am a new ma'am who was lacking sleep even before any of this came to light. Everything I've wrote has basically been just a big vent from me. I know I'm no novelist, but I still apologize if it's been difficult to read. Some of comments. Commenter, you should also look into the Offenses Against the Person Act 1861. If he knew he had an STI and spread it to you, and others, by telling you all not to use any kind of protection, that may be illegal. Reply, my health visitor made the exact same point. She said would look into it for me and make the report on my behalf as she has a legal obligation to report everything I said anyway. My worry is when speaking to the police today, they said without physical evidence they can't really do much, and even if multiple women come forward with the exact same claim, it's still hearsay and can't be pursued. I've checked all my past messages and can't find anything in writing from him that can be used. Commenter, I'd get a lawyer fast. I think there's a law against sharing private messages now, but I think you should be fine since the other women are consenting to their messages being used as evidence. That might be a loophole. Also, they're a Facebook group of women who post guys and their crimes so people know not to date these individuals, and since it's a closed group that they are careful who they let in there, he won't be able to get in cause they're really good at sniffing out a nosy dude and kicking them. So you might want to add that in there so others don't fall for his tricks. Also, I have to thank you cause I never realized how much someone saying ma'am instead of mom would annoy me. Now I can mark it down on my list of things I overreact to. I'm glad I caught it in text format before I met someone in real life who did this and just was perpetually annoyed with them without knowing why I was annoyed. LOL. Reply, thank you for your concern and advice. I've shown my support worker what I've shared and she said everything is above board. He's also already been named and shamed in a couple of groups by someone he was speaking to on a dating app after finding out about me. I have only shown my own information, would never expose another woman, and no one has been named but me and my partner. In all honesty, the post was more to prove that we had been in a relationship and had a child more than anything, as he was getting his friends and family to harass me saying he didn't know me and gaslit me so much I started to doubt the past year and a half myself. I only said what he had done to me and just mentioned that I was aware now that he had affairs. I've gone in much more detail here about things with the safety of being anonymous. I shared photos of us together, text messages of our boring lives, love you more, we need nappies, etc., and my medical records showing the STI. In the UK, it's only illegal to show other people's messages without consent, and the only ones I have are saved to be used in court, with the women who have sent me them's consent, if it comes to it. As I am the one who had sent the messages I've shared and there is no defamation, my social worker thinks I'll be okay. Also sorry. LOL. In my part of the UK, ma'am or mammy is most commonly used, and then mum or mummy, we never use mom. It's funny how different parts of the world speak the same language but use completely different words. Commenter, OMG op, you are a queen. I'm so proud of your fierce determination to protect your baby, yourself and other potential victims. All this and you're a new mama. Lordy, you're a strong woman. Hope that guy's prick falls off, bloody AH. Reply, I don't know why this was the comment that finally opened the floodgates for me, but thank you. I think they're happy tears. I've spent the last few months building up our rundown little council house. I managed to get us to make it into our dream home, all while caring for our little girl and giving more love and support to him and his family than I've ever gave myself. She falls asleep at 1 a.m. and I work through the night decorating and building furniture. I keep forgetting that I've just given birth, I haven't even recovered myself. He made me into a mouse of a person and so dependent on him that I haven't felt strong at all. I think now I can see through clear eyes and realize how many women I've managed to help so far and the work I'm putting into to protect the children as his school. I do feel more proud of myself and hope one day my baby girl will be proud of me too. This is all fake, and I 100% understand why someone would think and say that. I completely admit I used a clickbait title. I've never wrote a post before, only read others, so just copied what I've seen online for the title hook. I wish the rest was fabricated, but sadly, it's actually very condensed to focus on his lies about cancer. I haven't even touched on details of the argument around the attempted break-in which lead to this. Why or how I found the other women on Facebook, or the argument with his new girlfriend and ma'am which lead to me discovering the extent she has been covering for him. I don't even dare go into further details for people not believing the absolute shit show of the past week. I didn't even believe it myself. Update 2 in comments. I have managed to provide enough evidence of drug use and emotional blackmail to the police to have a domestic abuse case opened. This is going straight past the school to the highest authority to keep him away from children. This is huge news and gives me such a relief in knowing my child and others will be safe, but I still have that awful feeling of guilt for him. Just 2 weeks ago we called each other bride and groom. I think it's going to take a while to grieve the person I thought I knew while dealing with the one I know now. I hope this is the point he actually goes to rehab instead of lying about it and can find happiness and restart his life. I don't think I want to make any more updates now. I am unbelievably grateful for the kind words and advice, but I originally just wrote this to get my emotions out of my head to help me sleep better. I know I used a clickbaity title, but I did not expect my post to blow up like this. Thank you all for helping and making my emotions feel validated in an absolutely insane situation. Me and my little girl are going to be okay. Stories number 5. One of my boyfriends, 21M, best friends, 22M, families, pregnant wife, and toddler, house burned down in the California wildfire and are now coming to live with us in our small apartment. I did not agree to this and I, 21F, am feeling extremely anxious and panicked. First, I just want to preface this by saying that I am fully willing to support their family through tangible means like buying them food, supplies, furniture, etc. I just don't think our apartment is a viable option. My boyfriend and I live in a 2-bedroom 1-bathroom apartment in a very expensive area. Rent is around $3,000 a month, and we're both stressed out college students. This guy has been best friends with my boyfriend since high school and they regularly keep in touch and drive to see each other. My boyfriend and I live in NorCal while they live more south. The friend has not been in a good financial situation for the last 2 years. He dropped out of community college after he got a girl pregnant and they ended up getting married after she gave birth. She is now 7 months pregnant with their second child. My boyfriend and I usually go down to visit them together and we always pay for meals and I always try to buy a couple of toys for their 2-year-old. We have been in contact with them since last night. They were able to safely evacuate and bring some essentials, including their car, but their house has burned down. My heart aches for their family and I really want to help them by transferring money, or even calling some of my friends who live in Social to see if they are willing to take them in. But during a FaceTime call this morning, my boyfriend immediately, without any hesitation or asking me, offered up our small apartment to them. They were very thankful and at first said that it would be too much for us, but my boyfriend insisted and they graciously accepted in the end. I was in the background fairly silent the entire time. After my boyfriend hung up, I asked him why he just extended the offer without even asking me and he acted shocked and said that he thought that I would 100% support his decision. I told him that I would have in any other living situation, but we are 2 poor college students, living in as small as apartment in an expensive area, and it is definitely going to be more than difficult to accommodate his friend, his pregnant wife, and toddler. My boyfriend said that I was being a bit selfish and that they just lost their house and that I should be more understanding and sympathetic. And don't get me wrong, I agree that I'm being selfish, but I am also being reasonable and trying to think rationally. I may be a bit biased since I am in the middle of preparing for the MCAT, which I'm taking in January and I really need to do well on it, and dear God, it is not an easy test. My boyfriend and I are both in very stressful majors that require a shit ton of work and studying, and on top of that, he and I both are working part-time. I feel like I'm already so stressed out right now with school, work, and everything. I look forward to quiet time in our apartment that we get to spend. I digress, but I can't help but think of how this changes everything. Of course, this is probably temporary, even though my boyfriend said they could stay as long as they need to, but right now is really not the time. My boyfriend and I argued over this for an hour and I ended up just heading out for the day. My boyfriend is sticking to his plan and he texted me saying that he's sorry and that he knows it'll be hard, but to remember we're doing a good thing and supporting our friends in a time of crisis. I couldn't help but think that it was really his friend, and not ours, but I might just be being bitter. They are planning to drive up tomorrow morning. I am just so worried, stressed, and my anxiety is through the roof. I came home around 2 hours ago and noticed that my boyfriend has already set up a mattress in our second bedroom, which is our office work area, and set up the couch. I burst into tears and almost had a panic attack. I just don't know how to deal with toddlers, and I also don't know how to support and take care of a pregnant woman. My boyfriend comforted me, but I can't help but feel a bit resentful right now. He agreed to this without asking me and I can't fight back now. I would seem like such a horrible person. I'm still crying in our room as I'm typing this and my boyfriend went out to stock up on groceries. God, I don't know what to do and I feel so panicky. What can I do at this point, Reddit? I'm at a complete loss. Edit. Pretty relevant piece of information that I left out because I did not want to impose any unnecessary bias. Now I see its relevance. Copied from a comment below. To be very honest, I am not the biggest fan of their family. From what I could tell from visiting them with my boyfriend, they do not have their shit together. While we visited them around 3 months ago, the wife regularly went out and partied while pregnant and their toddler is extremely unbehaved. While I was there last time, I had to help change the toddler's diaper while the wife was out partying and my boyfriend and his friend were playing video games. TLDR, boyfriend's best friend's family's house burned down in the wildfire. His wife is 7 months pregnant and they have a 2-year-old. My boyfriend offered up our 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment without asking me because he assumed I would 100% agree. We are both poor college students in stressful majors. I am more than willing to support in any other way, just not having them live with us. I don't know what to do and I've been crying for the past hour. Fuck. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. A. Does he know the significance of the MCAT? Your feelings are so valid. I can't even imagine being put in this position. My BF just took the MCAT and he wouldn't see me sometimes for long periods of time because he needed to stay in the zone. B. There should be no obligation on you to help out whatsoever. This needs to be temporary. For the good of your future, your relationship, and your mental health. This kind of decision was not his to make on his own, you both live there. C. Is this even allowed per your lease? I'm in MA but my lease has a clause prohibiting visitors for over 1 week I believe. Maybe you can use this to your advantage. In a subtle way to hopefully avoid another argument. D. If they stay longer than a week, you should consider putting yourself first and moving out. MCAT needs devotion and routine, and if you value med school acceptances more than or equal to your current relationship, go for it. This is important stuff. E. Spend as little time at your place as possible. Find small ways to help out that don't take a lot of time or energy to avoid arguments and help keep the peace. Do those small things and then leave your place for the day. Move some stuff to a friend's place so you have a backup plan if you've had a super stressful day and just need a quiet place to crash. Reply. He knows the significance of the MCAT and still chose to make this rash decision without so much as to even consult me about it. Yeah, I looked up our lease this morning and it says no visitors for over 1 week too. I think that's usually the norm. I will definitely be pulling that card as leverage. Thanks a lot for the advice. I really hope that this will be temporary. Commenter 2. Do they have any other options? Honestly, my boyfriend would do the same thing and I love that about him. It really sucks that this is during such an important time in school, but if these people have nowhere to live I don't see how turning them away isn't a little heartless. Of course you might need to stay at your friend's house to get studying done, but is that such a horrible trade-off for helping a family with no home? Reply. I think they do have options, but decided to turn to us because their family would be harder on them, push them to pay for themselves, get out soon. They both have family nearby. In fact, the husband's rich family lives not far from us. However, they have already housed their family for 1.5 years after she got pregnant at 18 and according to my boyfriend, they were pissed at how they acted during that time and almost kicked them out. They finally caved and actually bought the house that they lived in so they could get out. I just can't deal with irresponsible adults in addition to a toddler in my small apartment. As others have pointed out, they can get support from FEMA or even stay at a local shelter. Hundreds of people are doing this. If they need money or food, I will gladly send it to them, but I can't offer up my space due to many reasons. I'm sorry if you see this as heartless, but I get the feeling that you would feel differently if you were actually put into my situation. Update. Never thought I'd be updating so fast, but everything was resolved in one of the most hectic and stressful nights of my life. Shout out to all of my supporters out there, you guys made my day yesterday. And to those of you calling me heartless because I don't think offering our living space up is a good idea when I've said that I am willing to support them in any other way, fuck you. The pregnant wife, husband, and toddler arrived at our apartment last night around 9:30 p.m. They had already told us on the way that their toddler contracted some kind of food poisoning and was not feeling well, which is what delayed them. Me and my boyfriend go down to greet them and we realized that they have so much luggage. There were 2 large suitcases, a duffel bag, and like 4 Trader Joe's shopping bags filled with random stuff and half-eaten food. Okay, cool. That's gonna be fun lugging up the stairs. So my boyfriend and the husband starts to bring up their stuff, while I stay back and half-carry the pregnant wife up the stairs because she feels too tired and nauseous. We get upstairs and I ask where Jake, the toddler, is. And the wife realizes she forgot to unbuckle him from the car seat and left him in there. She asked if I could go down and grab him. I wanted to say, not my forgotten toddler, not my responsibility, but alas I decided to try to be gracious at least for the first day, so I went down and unstrapped the toddler who looked visibly sick. There were literally 2 bags of vomit next to him, which I removed from the car and threw in the trash, because it would have been forgotten and become a severe health hazard. I tried to see if he can walk and he started crying and started dragging himself on the ground, so I picked him up and carried him up the stairs. I set the kid down next to our couch and Lord Almighty, this kid did not look good. His cheeks were flushed really red. There was dried vomit caked on his face and his breathing seemed quick rapid. I feel his forehead and it feels really hot to the touch, so I run to the bathroom to get a thermometer. While I'm digging for the thermometer I hear, again. Are you fucking kidding me, Jake? So I rush out and indeed, fucking hell, the tot has thrown up all over our carpet. I wanted to cry. I run to the kitchen to grab paper towels, but the pregnant wife was already using some sort of napkin cloth to sop it up, but she was smearing it and making it worse and I wanted to die. I came to help her and the tot is screaming at this point while she is yelling at him to shut the fuck up. My boyfriend and the husband came over to help, but the wife told them to go away because she got it handled. The wife asks if I would mind taking him to the bathroom to rinse him, and the only reason why I say yes is because I'm seriously worried about the kid. I strip him and run warm water in our tub and put him in. Then I put a thermometer in his mouth and lo and behold, he has a temperature of 106 degrees. Not a good sign at all. That paired with symptoms of vomiting, rapid breathing, and looking really lethargic is a combination good enough for the ER. So I yell for the mother to get to the bathroom and ask her where she thinks he got the food poisoning from. She says she doesn't know and that he's just eaten fruit for the past 2 days. I'm freaking out because his symptoms are consistent with meningitis. Poor kid keeps grabbing his head and crying so clearly he has a headache too. I ask her if she's gotten him vaccinated for meningitis and she said she doesn't think he's been vaccinated at all. I'm going into panic now. I feel Jake's neck and try to ask him slowly if he feels like it's difficult to move, he just cries more. I ask her to call for my BF and husband and explain the situation to them, and the husband confirms that the baby has not gotten vaccinated for the meningococcal BAC, so it's a no-brainer at this point. I tell them how life-threatening this infection is and that it may leave Jake paralyzed. The wife bursts into tears and gives the okay, so all 4 of us plus Jake get in their car to drive to the ER. My boyfriend is driving and I'm in the back cradling Jake and checking for rashes on his arms and legs with a cell phone flashlight. The wife is still crying. I am close to crying. We finally get to the ER and I tell them there is a 2-year-old with symptoms blah blah and blah, with no vaccination for meningitis, and we suspect he has it. They immediately bring him in and asked me if I was the parent and I said no and pointed to the wife who was trailing behind me in tears. They brought her in with the toddler and told me to stay in the waiting area. At this point, I take my first breath. 5 minutes later, the husband and my boyfriend come rushing in and I tell the husband to go talk to staff so they could bring him in. He does and my boyfriend comes to hug me and fuck it, I just start bawling my eyes out. He keeps telling me he's sorry and that it's his fault. I'm still crying into him. He calls an Uber for me and tells me to go home and get some sleep and that he'll handle the rest. I'm too tired to resist, so I get home at like 12 a.m., brush my teeth, and just crash after I got a text saying they put him on antibiotics and are waiting for blood test results in the culture, but that he was stable. I wake up the next morning at like 10 a.m. and the apartment is like super quiet and my boyfriend isn't in bed next to me. So I get up and walk into our living area and see him sleeping on the couch and not a single luggage bag or pregnant wife in sight. I nudge my boyfriend awake and he tells me everything that happened. The toddler is in the ICU and my boyfriend managed to get a hotel nearby for them for half the price after telling them what had happened. He paid for a week-long stay for them and then helped move everything out of the apartment and to the hotel with the husband while the wife was at the hospital. He kept saying he was sorry and that he didn't think anything through and for me to forgive him. I said it was okay and hugged him. It turned out to be one hell of an experience I don't ever want to relive again, but I'm glad Jake is safe and I'm glad they won't be living with us. TLDR, the family arrived and within 1 hour we had to go to the ER because I suspected the kid had meningitis. Turns out, he did have meningitis, but we caught it early, and he is now resting in the ICU. Fam is now living in a hotel that my boyfriend paid for after he came to his senses. Also, some key points that people keep missing. The pregnant wife, husband, and toddler chose to drive over 600 miles to live in our 2BD2B instead of living with the husband's wealthy, only around 200 miles away, family, who were also the ones to pay for their house and house them for 2 years. I have my suspicions as to why this is the case, but you make your own judgments. And finally, the pregnant wife's behavior is no different than normal. I've been to their house multiple of times and I can confirm that she curses at her child, drinks while pregnant, and is unable to adequately care for the child. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Kudos for catching on that. Jake was sick. I'm glad he's on the mend. Probably was a good thing that initially they did go there so you could catch it. Probably saved the kid's life. Reply. Thanks, I'm really glad it happened too. Commenter 2. Man. You are a fucking hero. I started crying just reading this. I live in Alberta and a couple years ago a couple here killed their son by ignoring vaccines and medical care. He had meningitis. It was heartbreaking and is still going through the court system. This couple literally owes you their son's life. Get fucking vaccinated, people. Reply. Thanks, but I am not a hero. But yes, please get vaccinated. Commenter 3. I thought the meningitis vaccine wasn't approved for kids until they are 11 in the US. Reply. Some infants and toddlers can get it if they suffer from some deficiencies, autoimmune disorders, or are HIV positive. Commenter 4. Sometimes things happen for a reason. It seems like this happened to you so you could save a life. Bad experience for you. Good for the kid. Reply. Yes, I am thankful that I was able to catch on to a few of his symptoms. I'm no doctor by any means, but meningitis is an incredibly scary infection. I'm glad I urged them to go to the ER. But I must say, I lost a lot more respect for the family from this experience. Commenter 5. I wouldn't have known. My kids are all fully vaccinated and I'd barely heard of meningitis. Probably because it's been vaccinated against. I'm a generation who never had to deal with it. Commenter 6. Yeah, but a kid who is repeatedly throwing up, lethargic and with a fever of 106 is very sick. It's one thing to not know it's meningitis, it's another to forget him in the car and scream, "Shut the fuck up," at him while he cries. That being said, her house had just burnt down, so I'd add a little forgiveness for mitigating circumstances. Reply. What's sad is that is how she regularly treats the kid. I've witnessed her swear at him multiple times. Also leaves him home alone while she goes out drinking. Stories number 6. Aita for punching my stepdaughter after she played a prank on me that scared me. I know the title sounds bad but please read and throw away, plus fake names. I, 38M, married, Judd, 44F, a few years ago and I acquired a stepdaughter, Abby, 14F, as a result. I dated Judd when Abby was 8, met her when she was 9, and married Judd when she was 10. I'd say our relationship is okay, she doesn't act bratty towards me and respects me enough as her mom's husband. However, there is one glaring issue about her and that is her pranking nature. Abby loves to pull pranks. Some examples are her hiding my car keys with what looked like 100 dubs in a box. I found them quickly because she failed to notice my keys have duct tape on them. Another one is when she hid in the fridge, something I still find very weird, to scare the first person who opened it. Well, last Wednesday, I arrived home and it seemed that I was the only one there. Only my shoes were at the doorstep and I even called out Judd's and Abby's names with no answer. This is somewhat normal as Judd sometimes works late and Abby stays at school for extracurriculars. So I screwed around with my dog, a German Shepherd and Husky mix for anyone that will ask, for a bit and then I decided to relive myself. When I got to the bathroom I noticed that the window cabinet was open. I thought nothing of it at first and unzipped my pants but then I saw a shadow behind the shower curtains. I thought the worst and immediately punched the figure behind the curtains. Well, as everyone may have guessed it from the title, it was Abby. She was making a prank video and I had not noticed that she propped her phone up on the bathroom cabinet with 2 cups. I'm not gonna lie, I did not hold back. I punched her as hard as I could. Her nose looked broken and when I realized it, I flipped out and so did she. After maybe 5 minutes of freaking out I drove her to urgent care and informed Judd of the situation. Her nose was indeed broken and would need about 6 to 12 weeks of recovery. Abby won't talk to me and as for Judd, she thinks that my action may have been justified but also thinks I should have approached with more caution which she has refused to elaborate on. So Aita. Comments. Commenter 1. Get a copy of the video. If Abby starts bitching to people about how her stepdad broke her nose, you are looking at jail time. Get and keep a copy of the evidence that she startled you while you were peeing. You need to sit Judd and Abby down and have a serious conversation. Filming without consent while someone is in the bathroom is a massive invasion of privacy and illegal in many places. If she did this to another kid, it could be considered child PRN. While you are in the bathroom, you feel vulnerable with having your pants down, genitals out. Those feelings increases the fight-flight part of the brain, and that you reacted on instinct. Please include to Abby that you love her, and never meant to hurt her. Commenter 2. And why would a young girl think pranking her stepfather in the bathroom is ever a good idea? She should at least be talked to about pranking anyone in the bathroom, especially with a video. Commenter 3. This is so unfortunate. People get killed for this sh. She's lucky she's alive. That's the normal reaction. To fight. As messed up this is, stick firm because this is a life lesson. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Fortunately it's all on tape, right? So you're protected. What she did is actually what's unforgivable. Her dumb antics are gonna get someone killed or put in jail. Her mother needs to address this. Not one more prank. Ever. Commenter 4. How stupid does a 14-year-old have to be to not know that recording someone in the bathroom without their consent is a very bad idea? And what was the stupid prank? Asterisk, boo. I scared you, so I'm gonna put your reaction and PP on social media, hee. NTA, but you might want to get legal advice, lawyer, before a false, and more sinister, version gets circulated. Commenter 5. As a teacher, I can say that 14-year-olds are indeed very uninformed. Had a 14-year-old once who took 30 minutes to go to the bathroom. When he finally came back, because he was a kid who didn't usually cause trouble, and I was worried, I privately asked, what the heck took so long? His response: I was waiting for people to leave the bathroom. I still didn't get it, so he elaborated. If you use a stall, you're probably trying to pile up poo or do something that you need privacy for, and other people will see your feet under the stall and try to film you by putting their phones over the walls of the stall. I started requiring that students trade their phones for the hall pass after that. Also told the administration, but they didn't do anything. Point is, yes, teenagers are that uninformed that behavior like this doesn't click as being problematic. Update. Well, this blew up big time. Let's address a few things. Abby's pranking nature isn't just situated on me, she has pulled pranks on her friends, the neighbors, and at school. The school has called Judd several times about this, as they have resulted in mild vandalism. The refrigerator prank, she was 11 when that happened, not a grown teenager. It was a brand new and very large fridge that my uncle bought and showed it off to everyone. So she climbed in until he opened it again. Judd yelled at her saying that she could have suffocated in there and took her outside to scold her for a few hours. The video doesn't show the toilet at all, just the shower curtain. However, the issue still remains that this was a massive invasion of privacy. The video has been deleted and Abby has admitted it was purely her fault. The update. It's been a chaotic week. Judd still refused to elaborate on how the situation should have been handled. I showed the post as a result and she did a 180 turn. She suddenly thought it may be time to stage an intervention and I agreed. We brought some of her friends as well as my cousin's wife, Jess. Jess is an officer from another state and Abby seems to respect her. In this intervention we state how we were each affected by her various pranks and how in turn they affected her. Jess also spoke about how much of these pranks border on criminal territory, meaning she could be arrested or face retaliation. It seemed to have gotten to her and Abby cried a bit and promised to do better. When everybody else left, Jess stayed behind and brought to our attention about a disciplinary camp that we could send her to. The program is 6 weeks long and involves group therapy, individual therapy, and constructive projects, whatever that means, and is held at a university campus. The program apparently has good reviews. Judd seems dead set in sending her to figure out her core problems. I'm a little hesitant about sending a kid away from home, but I'm the step-parent, so I got no say. Edit update. Okay, I swear Judd must be following my posts because now she's taking back what she said and is now thinking about doing what I and you fellow Redditors suggested in the first place, weekly therapy. So we agreed that I'm gonna find a therapist and I'm gonna front the bill for it since she didn't take this seriously in the first place. Comments. Commenter 1. The program apparently has good reviews. Try to get more than just reviews. The troubled teen industry is pretty horrifying. There's a troubled teen subreddit for survivors. It's brutal. Reply, I'm aware, that's why I'm hesitant about this. Commenter 2. Oh, thank God, I'm glad you're aware of the troubled teen industry. My heart sank so low when I read that your friend was suggesting it. Maybe it's legit, but I do feel it's a bit of an extreme response. Abby seems like a mostly good kid who just has this one stupid thing that's got stuck in her brain, normal teen stuff. I find it interesting that Judd did a 180 after reading a post, and now seems to be going from one extreme to the other, no, real, punishment to all punishment. I would think a bit more about that. I realize you're a step-parent and likely have no say in how Abby is parented, but I find it very concerning your wife seems to be so easily influenced by outsiders. Honestly, if Abby's able to keep to her word to, if not end her pranks entirely, at least tone it down, I'd say you're all in the clear. Maybe suggest to Judd that you keep this program in reserve in case she needs it, and that she have a chance to prove she's learned her lesson first. Commenter 3. Sent away seems extreme. Have you looked into this program? Is it held at a religious college? She might just end up abused at some of these type of teen rehabilitation camps and also just exposed to kids that are worse. I realize it might not be your call, but I would suggest try local therapy first way before sending a kid off. Reply, and I agree, sending a kid away from home will probably just damage them more. But Judd seems intent on dishing out the harshest punishment, immediately thinking that this will nip it at the bud. Or she doesn't want to be seen as an enabler. She changed opinions real fast when I showed her the original post. New update. Well, it's been 7-ish months and there have been a few developments. Let's address some more things before getting there. Up until recently, I have been still getting DMs asking why is this brat still in my house, why am I friends with Jess, and why did I name my wife Judd in my posts. I was drinking when I made my first post. I saved a draft and went back to it after a few hours of sobering up, fixing a bunch of grammatical mistakes, but clearing some got overlooked and it just stuck. I was planning on calling her Judy. Jess and I are not friends. She married to my cousin, who I do have a good relationship with, as well as their 2 daughters and Jess's daughter. Jess has a serious problem with boundaries. As for why Abby was still living with me, you have to understand, I, her stepfather, broke Abby's, my stepdaughter's, nose. If word got out, it would look really bad, would be seen as an abuser, and may have even been arrested. Several comments have pointed this out, how I should have saved that video for my own safety. I was pretty much going insane at that point and my wife thought nothing of it, thinking I should have just let this go until I showed her my original post. I don't care, I wanted to keep the intervention that we had smaller, that didn't involve her friends, because I felt they did not need to know about it. I just wanted her grandparents and Jess to show up, but I was convinced otherwise. Update. We decided that we would send Abby to weekly therapy. We were under the agreement that I would find and pay for it, and if it worked my wife would pay me back. It did work. Abby improved by a lot. She has realized how much damage she has done and working to improve things. She has even begun to do volunteer work as well, which I didn't think she would do. She has apologized profusely, realizing how disgusting her prank was. She has also deleted her TikTok account, calming that's where she got all the ideas from. We decided we would get her a new smartphone for her birthday 3 months ago for the improvement she's shown. We took away all smart devices as punishment. I don't think I mentioned that before. As for me and my wife, I gave her an ultimatum. Since therapy worked for Abby, it would be time we go to couples therapy or else we separate. We were having problems before this whole incident showed up, and now it kinda has to be forced. Past 2 years we've been living more like roommates and her enabling behavior is finally causing things to fall apart. She reluctantly agreed. It ended up being short-lived. She spoke during our sessions how I take things out of proportion and I went too far posting the incident online. She revealed that she was indeed following my posts, and that's why she changed her mind about the camp. Our therapist then asked us both if we loved each other at all. I was honest and said yes, but it's becoming difficult. My wife, on the other hand, said she was in love with the idea of me. I needed a minute if I heard that right, and she went on how I was apparently a catch. I was younger than her, had a stable job and owned a house, and she thought my loyalty was a bonus. I don't why, but I asked her if she cheated on me and she said no, but it doesn't matter, she just revealed that she settled for me. I filed for divorce 2 months ago. We had a prenup, so things are going smoothly other than her erroneously claiming some jewelry is hers, but my lawyer seems to think that it should finalized within 1 to 2 months. So my STBEX has moved out along with Abby. My dog misses them, she just sits by the door waiting for hours for them to come back. Specs is not happy about how things have progressed. She has been calling me a spineless bastard who couldn't just tolerate how things are, and has been saying to everyone who will listen. But behind closed doors she's been blaming Abby for her divorce, claiming it was her behavior that caused it. I know this because she has called me and texted me semi-regularly. Abby is living with her grandparents because apparently her mother can't deal with her right now. I actually liked my in-laws. They were real good people and they've apologized for their daughter's actions and even offered to reimburse me for Abby therapy sessions. They told me that they were gonna take care of Abby because it seems her mother has finally lost it. I spoke with Abby and assured her that this wasn't her fault. Chances are we were gonna divorce regardless. She then told me that she didn't want me to leave and that I was the closest thing to father she ever had. This surprised me. I never really saw myself as a parental figure for Abby. I only really did the minimal. Outside of that, I just paid for school events, supplies, and would carve out some time for her, but I did leave it up to her if she wanted to spend time with me. I told her that maybe when she turns 18 we can pick up where we left off, but until then I don't think we can see each other. Her mother would definitely try to keep her away from me, and I don't care, I need some time away from Abby as well. Things are so quiet at home that it's relaxing. So there you go, I don't even care if my STBX finds this post. TLDR, sent Abby to therapy, it worked but now me and her mother are divorcing and things are just falling apart. Comments. Commenter 1. I figured this was where this was headed. Good for you, you deserve better OP and congrats on being smart enough to get a prenup. Reply, you know when I brought up the prenup she was hesitant and took about 4 months to get her to sign it. Guess that alone should have screamed problems. Commenter 2. So your STBX didn't get the idea that if she loved you and invested in being more than a roommate, you two would still be married? Like, what's the deal here? To your ex, not you, advice, get your dog another dog to be busy. He will forget them at some point. Might also search for a dog daycare somewhere so he can meet other pet friends. Reply, honesty, I think she is just incapable of forming a relationship beyond a superficial one at this point. As for my dog, I did hire a dog walker for her during the day after they moved out. Guess I'll look into doggy daycare too. Stories number 7. AITA for telling my dad and extended family I want to be more than dad's mistake he made after his wife died. I, 18M, was raised by my dad on his own. My mom didn't want to raise me and she still doesn't want a relationship, and yes, I reached out to find out, her family doesn't even care. My dad was widowed for about 2 years when he and my mom had a fling and I was the result. My dad had 2 kids from his marriage. They were 11 and 9 when I was born and they hated the situation. I get it. They'd only lost their mom 3-ish years before. But they took it out on me. They always said I was a mistake dad made and that they couldn't believe he'd have a kid with someone who wasn't their mom. The oldest expressed a lot of disgust toward me for my existence. I was 9 the last time I had regular contact with them. Not because they moved out, they had moved out 2 years prior to that, but they stopped coming around as much. But they never softened toward me, either of them. The younger of the 2 didn't express as much disgust directly about me but at the situation overall, and they still wanted me to know they saw me as a mistake and something that should never have happened. I was repeatedly told I would never be their sibling, that they had each other and dad might not want me to be raped and beaten in foster care, but they sure as hell didn't care. And that if dad died I would be going there, and to them it didn't matter what happened to me. My dad knew how things were between me and his older kids. I always got the sense that even though he raised me and he provided for me the same as his older kids, that maybe he felt the same way as them. That he regretted that I existed. He never dated again. He still wears his wedding ring, or maybe started wearing it again, I don't care, and there were photos of his wife all over the house. Their wedding photos and family photos. I couldn't look at them or my half-siblings would get all pissy and they'd say my existence was disrespecting their mom's memory and I didn't deserve to look at her. My dad would tell me how much he loved and missed her and how he wished he could have made an even bigger family with her. That without her things felt wrong. Which maybe he wasn't talking about me exactly, but given the sentiment I don't think I'm that wrong. But he let me do any activities I wanted, and on the outside I'm sure he looked like an amazing dad by keeping up with my school and getting me help when I struggled and including me even when his other kids didn't want me included. The emotional stuff is where I think the biggest problem came, and for such a long time I felt like a mistake. My whole being felt like I was just the mistake dad made after his wife died. Then I started dating my girlfriend 2 years ago and her family were super amazing to me. They took an interest in me and wanted to know about my family life. One of her siblings knew my half-siblings and admitted they never knew they had a younger sibling, and I confided in my girlfriend's family and they were disgusted, and her parents have spent over a year telling me over and over that I deserved better and never deserved to be told and treated like I'm a mistake, that dad's actions are not my fault. It's been nice and gave me a boost of confidence when I needed it. My girlfriend has met dad and she's picked up on how different he is with me versus my half-siblings and how he does act like he regrets having me. Like me, she can see he provided for me physically, but she said it felt so cold. And I guess that's how I felt. I turned 18 a couple of months ago and I moved in with my girlfriend and her family so I could finish high school somewhere less cold. Because it was so close to Christmas when I moved in, it was a controversial move. My extended family told me leaving dad before Christmas to have an empty nest was cold, and when I chose to spend Christmas with my girlfriend and her family, my extended family accused me of lacking appreciation for everything my real family had done for me. My dad didn't say anything until a week ago when he asked me why I was arguing with his family. He told me he didn't think I should disrespect my grandparents or aunts and uncles like that. I ended up asking to see them all in one place, and I went to my grandparents' house on Friday where I basically opened up about everything and told them I was tired of being made feel like a mistake. I said I want to be more than my dad's mistake after his wife died, and my girlfriend and her family give me that. They treat me like I'm more than that. The response? My dad's allowed to grieve and he never said anything like that to me. I was also told I should know better than to take the words of grieving children to heart. When I pointed out they're adults now and still hold those feelings, I was told that wasn't what they meant and I should know that. There's a lot of general unhappiness about what I said and I know they think badly of me for speaking up about what I did. Aita for it. Stories number 8. If women can afford to be picky, why do they often end up picking absolute losers? Not charming attractive men who are secretly scumbags but often guys who are waving more red flags than a Mayday parade, which should be obvious to anyone with anything between their ears. I could understand women being ruthless and picky if they were all vying for the top echelon of men, but I, a 6 feet 5 inches good-looking interesting and respectful guy, have been stood up on a second date by a woman who wound up dating an older balding single dad with a fat gut who goes on unhinged racist rants on social media and posts all sorts of RWNJ conspiracies. So not only is he ugly as shit on the outside but the inside as well. There I was wondering what the hell I did wrong. She seemed like a sensitive person, so maybe I unwittingly offended her somehow. When I saw her with him on social media I laughed like a maniac, like Walt at the end of Crawl Space, at how twisted this whole thing is. I'm not everyone's cup of prune juice and I accept that. And I know there are a lot of damaged women out there with daddy issues who aren't even capable of maintaining a healthy stable relationship or on some level don't believe they deserve one, and until they can work through their issues they're destined to be a moth flying into a flame. I know a lot of smart people are susceptible to manipulation as well, even if they've been manipulated before, but many of these guys they're going for aren't exactly charismatic manipulative masterminds. Some of them I know are fucking boneheads and there's nothing charming about them. Obviously they have some kind of appeal with these women, but it's mysterious to me. And it doesn't just apply to damaged uneducated women. One of my attractive well-educated otherwise intelligent female friends comes from a good family, but she ended up dating a shorter average looking guy who treated her like dog shit, abused her and tried to turn her against her friends. Then at a party we saw him slam her head against the wall and several of us jumped in and beat the shit out of him. She actually sided with him and cut contact with us until she came to her senses and got away from him. Women like her could have their pick of the litter and they settle for some rabid little runt scum like that. Do they know on some level that they're making a foolish decision, just as we know we shouldn't go out and drink the night before work but we've all done it anyway? Meanwhile good guys are getting dropped like hot coal for the smallest misstep. Over sending one too many messages when they get excited about a topic or making a joke that gets misinterpreted as something offensive or something trifling that gives her the dreaded ick. Even if I understand on some level how and why this happens, I'll never completely wrap my mind around it. I'm just venting here, I'm sure some of you can relate. Stories number 9. To fool by telling my parents I was gay to avoid their arranged marriage proposals. So I'm pretty straight, maybe slightly bi if we count femboys. Let's get that out of the way first. I'm also an Indian American male around 26 years of age. I'd also like to clear up some misconceptions around arranged marriage. A lot of non-Indians seem to think it's literally your parents choose who you marry and that's that, but that's not really the case. Instead it's more like your parents tap their network to find potential partners for you. If you like each other's pics then you guys meet in person and then you decide whether or not you want to get married. So basically your parents are Tinder and you get a meeting or two to decide whether or not you want to get married. It's not quite as bad as many of you think it is, but the whole process feels super rushed and I'd rather date someone before I figure out if we're compatible or not. Anyways, my parents have recently been getting on my case about getting married. Apparently I'm getting older, need to settle down and give them grandchildren or something like that. Basically every time I see them, which is fairly often since they live close by, they have a new potential match for me, a picture of some new girl, and ask me if I'd be willing to meet her. It's honestly super annoying, but I'm too non-confrontational to really put my foot down and say, I don't want an arranged marriage. After all, if I do there'd be an argument or at minimum some interrogation about why I don't want one. Anyways, I was thinking of ways I could get them to stop harassing me about getting married and the idea in the title popped up in my head. I decided it'd be a lot easier to just come out as gay than to explain why I didn't want an arranged marriage. My parents were fairly conservative but weren't the types to disown their kids, and if I just said I was gay I'd have a solid reason to not get an arranged marriage. I didn't like girls. So that's what I ended up doing last time I was visiting. They were showing me pictures of some girl and I just looked them in the eyes and said, Mom, Dad, I'm gay. They got really quiet and awkward and asked me if I was sure and I said yes. My mom told me they'd love me no matter what and to do what makes me happy. My dad was a lot more awkward and quiet but later gave me a similar talk about how he was a bit uncomfortable with the idea, but recognizes that times are changing and I should do what makes me happy. Overall I did feel kinda bad because of how genuinely my parents seemed to respond to me, but was happy with the result. They stopped giving me arranged marriage proposals and stopped showing me pictures of girls. That is until last weekend. I visited them as usual and was greeted by my mom, who was more excited than usual. She sat me down and pulled out a binder with a bunch of pictures of guys. Apparently my parents had spent the last month or so looking for any and all gay Hindu Indian men who I could potentially marry. So now I guess I'm dealing with the exact same shit, but instead of being greeted with pictures of cute Indian girls I get to see pictures of gay Indian dudes instead. Fuck my life lol. At this point the plan is to either find a girlfriend and tell my parents she totally turned me straight or maybe marry a twink or something. I don't care. TLDR, told my parents I was gay so they would stop pestering me with arranged marriage matches, start potential gay suitors instead. Notable comments. Your parents really played the progressive reverse Uno card. We wholeheartedly accept these new terms and conditions. Challenge accepted. OP's parents, probably. They spent a whole ass month doing their research. OP's parents went from Tinder to Grindr real quick. Shed 2020. Your mom probably. Commenter. I don't care if my son is straight or gay, I just want him to get married. Commenter. This is fucking hilarious and it serves you right LMAO. This is life's way of saying you gotta either learn how to set boundaries or deal with your parents bugging you about it. There's nothing you can do to avoid it. Commenter. Either they're calling your bluff or, and you should seriously consider this, maybe they do support you and your personal choices, and are less interested in having grandchildren and more in giving you the best chances at not being alone in life. If you do follow the general advice and come clean, keep this idea in mind. They don't want you to marry a baby factory, they want you to have a fulfilling life with a partner who loves and supports you, and who is loved and supported in turn. Comments by OOP. To be clear, what I described is the norm in Indian culture, but there are edge cases closer to what the stereotype is. My mom, for example, used to watch a soap opera about a girl who got forced into a child marriage, and she kept talking about, this is what the rural folk in Rajasthan do as soon as the government takes their eyes off them. No idea if that's true or not in Rajasthan specifically, but it does still exist. On the opposite end, there's also love marriages that just kinda go through the motions of arranged marriage. Even if you have a love marriage, you're generally still expected to go through the motions of introducing them to your parents and then having a giant meeting with both sets of parents so they can talk to each other. It's considered the proper way. From my dad's many monologues in recent weeks about how Hinduism is completely fine with the gays, I don't think it's really the same as in Christianity. Conservatism in Hinduism, at least for my parents, is mostly about following the 4 life stages, maintaining a traditional lifestyle, and doing proper rituals. I think they found it relatively easy to find and replace the marriage parts with gay marriage. And yeah, I think my parents would legitimately be more disappointed if I brought home a meat-eating non-Hindu white girl than if I brought home a nice Hindu boy lol. A lot of the whole arranged marriage stuff is about ensuring people stay within the religion culture, and for people who believe in that stuff, caste, though my parents only really care about if they're veg or not. I love my parents more than anything, and while they do violate boundaries all the time, it's for cultural reasons and not because they're bad people. If I started putting them up, I'm pretty sure I'd break my mom's heart, and I really don't want to do that. They never talked about gay people before, so I honestly wasn't knowing what to expect. This was certainly not at rip. I don't think boundaries exist in Indian families lol. Update. I read all the comments on the original post, from the people telling me to just tell my parents, questioning whether or not I was really straight, laughing at the admittedly fairly funny situation I'd gotten myself into, and a couple of people who were straight up mean. At the end of the day though, posting here probably gave me the final push to do something. The weekend after I'd made the post, I visited my parents as always and resolved myself to tell them the truth. However, when I got there, my mom as always pushed the binder in my hands and I kinda lost my resolve to tell her. I decided to just play along. It was then that I remembered the people on this thread who made fun of me for liking femboys and questioned whether or not I was really straight. I kinda took that to heart and decided to look at the binder of dudes in earnest to see if I liked any of them. To be honest, I'm really glad I did. Most of the dudes were unattractive as expected, but I found a dude on there who I legitimately think is cuter and more feminine than the vast majority of girls I've seen. I told my mom I liked him and she kinda joked around asking me what the point of being gay is when I wanted a dude who looked like a girl anyways. She talked to his parents, we had a meeting set up over Zoom, and overall it went really well. Me and him have a bunch of common interests, we're both massive weebs and history nerds, and he also disclosed that he apparently cross-dressed in private, which only made me like him more. In the end though, we both decided we didn't want to rush into marriage and wanted to do a dating trial run of sorts. I told my parents and they were fine with it. My dad literally just told me that as long as we have marriage as an eventual goal and don't have sex before marriage, they didn't mind if we dated. Y'all, literally this whole shitshow could have been avoided LMFAO, though I'm kinda glad it wasn't. Luckily he lived in the same state as me, but he was still a 3 to 4 hour drive away, so mostly we've just had Discord calls and spent time together gaming for the past few weeks. This Saturday though, we finally managed to meet up in person and have a date, and honestly I think I'm kinda in love. Dude's cuter than any girl I've ever met, but unlike most girls he's actually into the same things I am. Anyways, we ended up having a great day out on Saturday and I ended up staying at his place over the weekend, though surprisingly I kept my promise to my dad and somehow avoided having sex lol. Anyways, yeah, I'm now back home and extremely happy with my decision to lie to my parents. Then again, is it really lying if it turned out to be true? I really do like him and will probably ask him to marry me a couple months from now if nothing goes wrong. TLDR, guess I really was gay all along. Comment by OOP. Yeah, growing up I was always told to find girls into similar stuff as me, but honestly I think most of my hobbies were always too male dominated for that. This 100% is the best of both worlds because I'd be totally down to be his friend even if romance wasn't involved. Stories number 10. AITA for how I reacted to my husband's ex-wife's girlfriend buzzing my stepson's hair. This is a throwaway and all names have been changed. To explain the relationships here, I, 30F, married my husband, Alex 31M about a year ago, but we've been together for 4 years. He was previously married and after they had agreed to divorce, she told him she was pregnant. We'll call his ex Kate, 30F. Kate had been cheating on Alex with Jess, 32F, for about a year. I had known Alex for years through mutual friends and I met his son when he was 6 months old. So present day, Kate and Jess are together still, but very hot and cold. I went to pick up my stepson from school, Jess had dropped him off, and he seemed quiet and sad. I asked him what was wrong and he said he was sad because he had no hair. He has beautiful curly hair. He told us he wanted to grow out into a mullet. At that time, my husband cleared it with his mom that they were both okay with that, and she agreed to have me trim it as needed like around his ears. He took his hat off and it was buzzed down to his scalp. I was shocked but just said, well, I think you look very handsome but I thought you wanted to grow it out, why did you cut it? Apparently Jess was going to trim it and forgot to put a guard on. When she realized that, it was too late and she had to buzz it. When we got home I called Kate. She didn't know how bad the haircut was and was tied up at a work event. She suggested I make sure I get the whole story on what happened, so with her permission I went right to Jess after I called my husband, who was driving home from a couple hours away, and explained what was going on. So I called Jess, asked to verify what he said and tell her how upset he was. She said that is exactly what happened but didn't see why it was such a big deal. She kept saying I'm overreacting and it's just hair, so I tried to explain that as a kid there's so much he doesn't get a say in, so it was a big deal to him. I told her she should never go near his head with clippers again. She came back with, well, you're not his mom, and when I reminded her she wasn't either she said, I'm a hell of a lot closer than you, I've been there since day one, to which I said, yeah, because you were an affair partner. Don't cut his hair again, and hung up. I called my husband back to explain everything and calm down. He had been on the phone with Kate discussing things as well, and I texted Kate to give an overview and say I was sorry if I overreacted. It's the next day and Jess is trying to tell Kate I shouldn't be allowed to cut his hair if she can't, and I need to get my parenting privileges taken away. I think that's crazy. And just to clarify my role as a step-parent, Kate and my husband meet twice a year alone to discuss parenting things, and at the last one Kate said she is comfortable with seeing me as a parent and is ready to include me in the meetings going forward. But Aita for being upset with Jess for not only buzzing his hair but for how she reacted trying to minimize it. Stories number 11. My 25F, parents have chased away every boyfriend I have ever had. How do I prevent this from ruining my relationship with my current BF, 28M? I was very shy during high school and didn't leave my house unless I had to, so as a result I didn't get a boyfriend until my freshman year of college. After 7 months of dating my first ever BF, I brought him to my parents' house for dinner, just so they could meet him. I had to step away for roughly 10 minutes to help my older sister with her baby, and when I came back, my BF, then 20M, and my dad, old, were having a full-blown fist fight. We managed to stop them and my BF stormed off without saying anything, while my dad insisted my BF was incredibly rude and disrespectful to him and my mother and that a guy like that was no good for me, because he'd just end up doing the same thing to me. I was shocked that my BF could do such a thing because he had always been extremely sweet and I've never met or heard of anyone not liking him, but when I called him and told him what my dad had said about what happened, all he did was laugh and say I can believe whatever I want, before blocking me on everything. I was deeply disturbed by this, but my mom and sister insisted that he had just shown his true colors and said my dad saved me from an abuser. I reluctantly accepted this, but something about it felt really off. I met my second boyfriend several months later. During my sophomore year, part of me still felt my parents were part of the problem with my last BF, so I managed to get him to wait an entire year before introducing him to my parents from the moment she laid eyes on him. Every word my mom spoke to him was dripping with fake friendliness and subtle jabs implying she did not approve of him, which made him visibly uncomfortable. While we were eating dinner, she began asking me what made me decide to date my BF, and asked about other guys and why they didn't work out. Some of the guys she asked about were completely made up, at this point it was clear what they were trying to do, and I silently vowed to talk to my BF and tell him how my parents were trying to sabotage me. Unfortunately, it didn't get that far, as my dad chipped in and demanded to know how a boy, who couldn't support himself financially, was ever going to support his daughter. Mind you, we were both juniors in college at this point, and both of us were working part-time jobs, so this question was really insane. He responded by saying he'd already decided he wanted nothing to do with this family and was planning to break up with me when he got home, but he's just going to leave now within minutes. He was gone, and I was blocked again. My parents insisted they did nothing wrong and just wanted to test his confidence as any parents would, but I pointed out that this was the second boyfriend they chased away, and they didn't do anything to scare off my older sister's husband. I went low contact with them after that, but fast forwarding a little bit, I eventually allowed them to gaslight me into introducing them to my third boyfriend, whom I had met towards the end of my senior year, and basically the same thing happened. I had made it through college unable to find a long-term BF, purely because of my parents. I did meet my current BF, 28M, 2 years ago, and I have managed to avoid introducing him to my family thus far. If he ever brought it up, I would always have a ready-made excuse prepared to explain why it wasn't possible, which has been pretty easy because he usually only asks about them when planning for major holidays. I have fallen madly in love with him and hope to start a family with him one day, but he recently told me that he can't even allow me to move in with him until he's had a chance to meet my family. I do not know what to do, as I know my parents will make it their mission to break us up if they meet him, but based on his insistence on meeting them, I realize I can't put this off any longer. Usually, relationships end because of something one person in the relationship says or does, and it's incredibly unfair that I always end up single because of things I cannot control. I want to tell my BF about my parents and insist that meeting them is a bad idea, but I've listened in on some of his conversations with his friends, and the general consensus among them seems to be that a girl with a super dysfunctional family is a massive red flag, and an indicator of what their married life would be like. So I come here asking, how do I approach the problem that is my parents without risking losing the longest relationship I've ever had? If my parents end up being the cause of yet another breakup, I just don't know what I'll do. I just don't know. Edit. Wow, I made this post about an hour before going to bed, but woke up to quite a few comments here. Thank you so much to everyone who has helped me realize what I need to do. I've read through all of the comments and saw some recurring questions come up that I wanted to address. I am not fully no contact with my parents primarily because they helped me a lot financially during college and when I first graduated and was looking for a job. When I went low contact with them, they constantly yelled at me for being ungrateful and said family does not turn on each other over minor disagreement involving boys. It sounds ridiculous when I type it here, but after months of this treatment, when I found myself faced with the decision to either tell them I forgive them so they'll pay for my dorm room, or refuse to forgive them and have to move back home, I ended up caving. Why didn't I stand up for my past BFs when I saw them being verbally abused? I don't know. I've never been allowed to talk back to my parents, so the thought of calling them out while we have company over is not something I realized I could do, I guess. My arguments with them after they ran off BF 2 and 3 were the only times I've ever come into full conflict with them in my entire life. I will be going to my BF's house today after work, and will tell him everything. I am terrified he will still want to meet them, just thinking about it has me shaking at my desk, but you all are right. He has a right to know and make his own decision. Edit 2, I told him, and even showed him this post. To make a long story short, he still would like to meet them but thanked me for telling him, as he always figured something was seriously wrong. My parents host dinners for our family every Sunday, and we will be attending this one. I suppose I'll make a new post with an update afterwards. Top comments. Commenter 1. You stop bringing anyone you like around them. Period. Tell your boyfriend why. They get weird and run anyone you date off with their nonsense and you'd rather just avoid them altogether. My boyfriend knows all about my dysfunctional family and abusive upbringing. It didn't run him off. If anything, it brought us closer as he empathized. ETA, we just celebrated 6 years together. The right partner won't hold your family against you. You couldn't choose them, after all. Commenter 2. If your plan is to stay with him in the long run, you have two options. 1. Come clean about why you don't want them to meet and explain exactly why you're scared of them meeting, or 2. Cut off your parents entirely and tell your boyfriend you cut them off. Ideally, either way you end up telling him why you chose what you chose. Good relationships take communication, and if your boyfriend doesn't know why he's being kept away from your family, that most likely will be the reason you break up. Update. I meant to make this update a lot sooner, but since my last post a lot has happened. I truly appreciate all the comments I received calling me out for hiding my parents being insane from my BF and encouraging me I don't care with him. My BF is pretty involved now, so I guess I should give him a fake name. I will call him Ethan. I sat Ethan down and told him about my parents and how they ran off my previous boyfriends, before showing him my original post as many recommended. Fortunately, he did not seem to care that I hadn't told him, but he did agree with many commenters that my parents were more than just insane, they were outright abusive. Although he understood how I felt, he still said he would like to meet them, both to see it for himself, but also because he felt there was an underlying reason for their behavior. My parents have dinner for the family every Sunday, which I have been attending on the weeks that I'm not hanging out with Ethan that day, so we agreed that he would come to the next one. When Sunday came and we arrived at my parents' house, my anxiety was through the roof. Ethan had agreed to leave with me the moment things started to get out of hand, but with my parents that could have easily been as soon we walked through the front door. My parents were surprisingly very nice, though. My dad actually seemed excited to see Ethan, and my mom fawned over her daughter bringing home such a handsome, confident-looking man. I couldn't understand what was happening. Ethan even shot me a look a couple times, as if to silently ask if he was missing something, because my parents were actually lovely. I want to provide a play-by-play of the entire night, but the post would just be too long. The point is, my parents had done a complete 180 from their previous behavior, and it made me look and feel crazy for trying to warn Ethan about them ahead of time. During dinner, my mom said she was so happy to see her daughter had finally found someone who wasn't judgmental and was willing to give me a chance because of the person I am today, because the past doesn't matter. My heart dropped. What was she talking about? Ethan said he does not know about anything in my past that may be cause of concern, and my parents exchanged a concerned look, as if it was rehearsed. My dad asked him why he thinks my previous relationships failed, and he said that he was under the impression they got scared away after meeting my parents. My mother looked at me with disappointment on her face and said, "OP, is that really what you told him?" I was at a loss for words, but Ethan was not. He said that it's pretty clear they are trying to plant seeds of doubt in him about our relationship, but he is not interested, as he knows me well enough to know my character and that even if there was something serious in my past, parents who loved and supported me or even just wanted grandchildren would keep it a secret to avoid ruining my relationship. My dad said he already has 2 grandchildren, and motioned towards my sister, who did not have her kids with her that evening. Ethan said my dad must have been very supportive of my sister for her to be able to start a family while he tries to run off any guy I bring home, and my dad's response was very casual, but extremely shocking. He said, "Of course, she's actually mine." Everyone was quiet for a few moments, until Ethan spoke up and said that now all of the abuse they've only put me through is starting to make sense. My mom said he's spouting nonsense, and that I have not been abused in any way. She then looked at me and admitted her marriage had a rocky start, but both her and my father have moved past that. I was too busy replaying my entire life in my head to say anything. The previous boyfriends, the lack of support for my social outings growing up, the volleyball games I had to have a friend drive me to because my parents were always too busy, the rage I was always at risk of facing if I ever spoke my mind, all while my sister got the opposite. I started to cry, the hardest I ever have. Ethan immediately announced that we are leaving. My dad demanded we stay where we are so we can clear things up, but Ethan ignored him as he pulled me out of my chair and led me away. My mom screamed at me not to leave, and that this guy was trying to isolate me from my family. I yelled back that if anyone had been trying to isolate me, it was her, for my whole life. I ended up blocking both of my parents' numbers because they were saying some truly awful things to me, both about myself and Ethan. Ethan said he was expecting them to be crazy, but this was far worse than he could have anticipated. He said I need to go into therapy immediately, and that he will pay for anything my insurance doesn't cover. My parents showed up at my apartment twice yesterday to demand I come out and speak to them, but I've been staying at Ethan's all weekend and will likely be here all week. I'm not sure if this is the update y'all wanted. I had countless people enraged at me for being spineless and not standing up to my parents, and while I had planned on doing so, that's not what happened. I don't know what is going to happen with my parents, or where I go from here, but now that the holiday is over I can spend some time looking for a good therapist. Top comments. Commenter: so your mom cheated on your dad and you are the affair baby and they treated you poorly because of that? Is that the story, or has my reading comprehension failed me? Maybe you have a great father out there somewhere. 23 and me. Ethan sounds great. The truth shall set you free. Stories number 12. Ex-husband's new GF wants family to cut all contact with me, so I'm divorced. I will freely admit that I'm most at fault for the divorce. I never should have been married, but hindsight is 20/20 as they say. My own family is a shit show and a half. I've known my ex's family for the majority of my life. When we split up, some of his family has kept in contact with me, including his mom and one of his sisters. It's nothing crazy, but we grab a drink from time to time and his mom just checks in to see how I'm doing. Knowing how my family is, she worries about me even though I tell her not to. We split a few years ago and the divorce was final more than a year and a half ago. Despite me being the asshole in my marriage, my ex doesn't have any crazy bitterness and we have a decent relationship now. In the years since we split, he's never had an issue with his family staying in contact with me. I know for sure because I've asked. Enter new GF. They've been together for 6 months or so. She's 27 and he's sneaking up on 40. Not that big of a deal, but she's not a fan of the fact that he's been married before. Actually, I'm the second ex-wife. As they've gotten more serious, she's taken extreme exception to the fact that his mom and sister in particular still keep in contact with me. I'm petty and laughed my ass off the first time she came at me about it all. Privately I talked with his mom and sister though and told them I totally understand if they need to cut contact to keep the peace. They assured me that they do what they want to do and not what the girlfriend of a hot minute demands. Since I am still in contact with them, she's taken the mature approach of posting all my misdeeds on social media. Some of which have impacts on people that don't deserve it, well maybe deserve it a little, but in any case, it's rocking a lot of boats. 3 weeks ago, I was out with friends at a bar. New GF was there with the ex. She was livid and demanded I leave immediately. I gave the appropriate response and laughed, turned around and continued my conversation. She proceeded to hit me from behind and smashed my head into the bar top. I lost consciousness for a few and when I came to, she was being pulled away and cops were being called. I declined charges at the time but was told if I change my mind to contact them. So since she's being petty and posting everything about me, I'm thinking maybe those charges sound a whole lot better. My ex is begging me not to, saying he will rein her in and get her to stop, but man, I want to pull the trigger now and just do it. As I've admitted, I'm not the good guy in this story, but am I the asshole if I do file charges against this girl? Stories number 13. My mum asked me to watch my siblings for a week. It's been 9 weeks. I was 19 when her mum told her she would be gone for a week prior to Christmas and needed OOP to look after her siblings and later told OOP she won't be coming back at all. It had been 9 weeks already and OOP asked if it was a serious issue for her mum with social services for her being gone that long. OOP's father walked out on the family a few years prior and haven't been heard since then. No one in the extended families including the siblings' nan wanted to help the family. It wasn't until OOP's older brother, Matt, who came back home to help her. Things started to look up, but with lots of fights and frustrations, because the younger siblings struggled with the fact that they don't have their parents and no help, only having OOP and Matt. Before OOP, Matt, and their siblings got to move to a new place for a fresh start, their mum had another baby girl which upset OOP. With the family decisions, OOP, Matt, and their sister too are now raising their 6 younger siblings including the new baby. This is around the time where the siblings are becoming a year older now. Their first Christmas together as siblings including older sister number 2 joining them at their new house. OOP shares new updates on how she and her siblings are doing. Christmases with the crew. Very waffle Christmas post for everyone who has been asking how it was. I wanna say it was hell magical and perfect but yeah that was never gonna happen with this many feral kids. The 23rd and 24th were a lot because of it being a year since our mum left. The kids were clingy AF and just all wound up and like anxious IG. The night of the 23rd we had 9 years old and 7 years old literally not going to sleep whatsoever. They were a nightmare to the point that 17 years old offered to take the baby for the night and I had both girls in my bed and Matt slept on the floor of my room on 9 years old's mattress. I didn't sleep the entire night. I hated the baby being in the other room and wanted to go get her but couldn't risk waking the girls up so I lay there thinking FML. 24th they were all just a bit weird and or grumpy. Normally they are all in pretty bad moods Christmas Eve because they are prepping for disappointment so this year was that plus all the feelings since it's been a year since she left plus being in a new place. And I had told them all they were getting presents in advance because I wanted them to be excited this year and not be too overwhelmed on the day. But they were still all just not themselves and not exactly in good moods. Anyway the morning of Christmas Day finally came and it was magical seeing them so excited and happy when they opened their presents. I legit cried. Love them kids, they are so grateful for everything and it kills me. They only got like 5 to 10 presents each but it looked like a lot of gifts everywhere since there are so many of them. Me, Matt and sis number 2 got each other a couple presents too which was cool. The kids had a whole convo about how it looked like a movie Christmas in real life. 7 years old near died when she opened a box full of bluey custard pouches and 9 years old opened one present and stopped for ages and I was like hey aren't you gonna open the rest? She was stunned that the others were for her as well. All day 7 was like, I can't believe Santa knows where we live now. She also thinks Matt has his number and sent the updated address so he gets the creds for that. She got a big hippo stuffy which never left her side all day. The older ones were more quietly happy but I could tell they were amazed. They all said really genuine thank yours to me and Matt. Which is a whole 180 from, why don't you go fuck yourself, LMAO. I stupidly said as a joke, you guys are all being very nice today, huh? Totally jinxed it because shortly after things went kinda downhill. I went to have a shower, washed my hair, thought OMG this day is gonna be so fun. Go get my baby back off my sister and she immediately pukes in my hair because someone didn't burp her properly. Rest of the kids have turned chaotic as well. There were happy tears, sad tears, overwhelmed plus 9 years old broke one of her presents in the first hour so she was legit distraught, arguments. I was so exhausted by lunchtime I legit took the baby and had a nap with her, which I never do but it was a lot. Told Matt and my sister to deal with the rest of them because I needed a break from the noise and the crying, as I walk off with a 3-month-old. Matt took them all out, which was ideal, had a day off from stressing about food and just told the kids they could eat whatever they wanted. We just literally did like pizza and nuggets and stuff I know they like and did like a buffet type thing so they could just eat whenever. Nothing really special because it wasn't the day to be trying to introduce new foods. I was already too tired and I didn't want to cook. Matt had some fancy smoked salmon and some other fish that he likes but no one else really ate it and I didn't try force them because CBF. Everyone was hyper AF in the afternoon even after Matt took them all to the beach. They got back and were more energetic than before ISTG. Almost lost my shit because they made the baby jump like 5 times and I was so done because I kept telling them to calm TF down and they wouldn't. Matt worked some kind of magic and they listened to him. Pissed me off even more to be honest after they ignore me. Youngest 2 did some craft things they got from Santa and the others were pretty chill, just watched some movies. Then we played a couple games and that was pretty good. Lots of emotions by the evening. I don't care what happened but we went to make dinner and suddenly I had kids disappearing off into different rooms to cry. The baby peed all over 13 years old's new blanket because someone, Matt, didn't put her nappy on properly. Such a juggling act, especially because 7, who is usually the emotional one having meltdowns, was legit bouncing happily around the whole house and I'm like, hey buddy, can you chill and not jump around so happily whilst your sister literally hyperventilates? Or do it somewhere else. She had gone selectively deaf so you can guess how that went. 12 years old and 9-year-old had early nights because they were upset and the rest of us got to watch 7 years old perform a play she had made up during everyone else's meltdowns. She said it was Christmas themed but it was actually about the Titanic, except she thinks it got hit by a tsunami. Watched another movie. Then 7 had a meltdown because it got to 11 p.m. and I had the audacity to say, hey kid, it's bedtime, and she was hell angry that I was making the day end. Wrestled her into her PJs and she eventually fell asleep after she talked me through the events of the whole day as if I hadn't been there. LMAO. Anyway, she actually slept pretty good, only woke up like twice and the baby slept for a solid 6 hours, so yay. My mum didn't message and my oldest sister only said Merry Christmas and that she hoped I enjoy the day and emailed me a gift voucher, so that was nice. Expected more drama from my phone so had it off most of the day and it was a pleasant surprise when I went back on it, but part of me always stupidly hopes my mum might say something nice like wish her kids a happy Christmas or something to know why I even think it could happen, but it was a bit of a gut punch to get nothing at all from her. But what else is new? Every day I kinda hope she will message asking how the baby is so I can stop convincing myself that she would be dead if that woman didn't bring her to hospital. Like I just want mum to show a tiny bit of care or concern. But she never will, so I need to get over it. But in good news, my sister had a very brief convo with one of my dad's other kids and it sounds like my dad is in prison for GBH. Apparently they thought it was GBH on my mum but I'm pretty sure it wasn't, so I don't care how true the whole thing is. But I hope he is in prison, and that should mean my mum won't have any more kids because for some reason she only wants to reproduce with my dad specifically. And even though the whole Christmas thing was a lot and I'm exhausted, it was still mostly really nice, and I have to remind myself that last year at Christmas my mum had just ditched, we had zero money and no gifts and our nan went to spend the day at my aunt's but we couldn't go because there are too many of us. So I spent the day trying to get the kids to stop looking out the window waiting for my mum to come back with presents whilst I sent her like 100 texts. And I didn't have Matt or my sister to help me. When I think of that, I'm really happy with how this year has been, and the fact we have moved is so surreal. This might be my longest post ever. I'm so sorry LOL if you have read this far. Thanks and hope you had a good Christmas. Update. Not the most positive update, just the realistic chaos of our life RN LOL. Summer holidays still here, so the kids are here 24/7 being chaotic AF, and I honestly think the anxiety about starting a new school is getting worse by the day. They are literally demonic RN. I can't get a break. I deal with one kid and immediately the next one starts, then the next, and it actually does not end. Day and night it doesn't end. The baby has stopped sleeping as much, so she is a bit more work too. I'm typing this in the middle of the night whilst holding her because she wakes up every time I try put her down, so I've given up. My sister is working FIFO, so she's literally here for a week then gone for a week. When she's here things are easier. She takes the kids out away from me so I can breath. I don't go out loads, except for baby kid appointments as those never end either, because it's too hot for the baby and just thinking about trying to get organized to leave the house makes me feel sick. I can usually do an evening or morning walk with the baby which mostly I bring 7, 9 and 12 with me and they play at the park near our house. Well 12 years old skateboards around, doubt he'd like me to accuse him of playing LMAO. But I don't really go further than that RN unless the kids are being nice and my sister is there. Otherwise her taking them out is my recovery time. Promise I do still love them but I can't wait for school to start. 12-year-old goes out and skateboards with some of the neighborhood kids pretty often. Obviously don't need to really worry about supervising him, I just tell him to be home before dark which it's hit or miss if he'll actually listen. Trying to pick my battles with him but Matt is hell set on doing 3 strikes and you're out. I don't care how on board I am because last thing I need is a grounded preteen boy in the house all day winding everyone else up. Otherwise he's pretty okay, can be a little shit but compared to the girls he's my angel. The little girls mostly play at home unless one of the older girls will take them to the park. Matt got some big plastic bucket things from Kmart and the girls fill them with water and play Barbie swimming pool or a Barbie boat got hit by a tsunami or whatever. That keeps them entertained for ages. The rest of the time they just terrorize me and each other. Most days 9 years old is in trouble for doing something to 7 years old. Try to get them to play separately but apparently they'd rather be pulling each other's hair out than playing alone. 7 years old has a bunch of night terrors and a few other things going on ATM that make life more stressful but that's not her fault. 13 years old I literally can't even look at her half the time without her freaking TF out. So moody she will sometimes go out with 12 years old but that mostly ends in an argument. Ran out of patience with her yesterday and we wouldn't let her go out because of how she was treating him. And now I think of it probably was too much for both me and Matt to be stood there telling her off but she lost it and called us dictators and said she can go out if she wants. Then she stayed in as she was told. She likes to argue about everything but she doesn't actually rebel that much when it comes to it. We have all 4 of the younger ones' birthdays coming up soon and I asked what they want to do as a special treat. 13 years old wants to go out just me and her for food. I was like HUH. So maybe she does like me, or maybe she just wants to yell at me in public instead. LMAO. 17 years old mostly is my bestie RN and she is in love with the baby so she's a huge help with her. But she's a pain in the ass with the other kids. Claims she's helping me by going around smacking them and being so overly strict and it just creates more drama for me. I keep telling her I don't need her help with disciplining and she's like, yeah you do, I'm almost an adult, I can help you like Matt and, big sis, do, and I'm like thanks but no thanks. Couple days ago 7 years old threw the TV remote at 17 years old and it hit the baby instead, so 17 years old smacked her and then brought me 2 crying kids to deal with. Took forever to get them both calmed down and I was so pissed off with her about it. She decided I was only mad because I'm too protective of 7 years old, and that sent me into a rant and I was like, you hit my kid again, I'll lose my fucking mind. Afterwards I was like, ugh FFS, because the truth is I know exactly what her thought process is. I used to be the exact same, and it takes everything in me not to smack the kids, like the amount of times I almost do is insane, especially RN with the constant overstimulation and bad behavior. I know that 17 years old just doesn't have the restraint motivation that I do. So as much as I don't excuse it I also don't blame her really because violence has always been the default for us and I do understand her POV because to her, I'm putting all this effort into discipline that takes ages and doesn't have immediate results so she would just think I'm an idiot. Because she smacks her and immediately gets an apologetic kid but she doesn't get that it's not good long term. And when I tried explain to her she just said, well you and, list all other older siblings, are all fine and you had it way worse. I obviously have told her we aren't fine and the fact my brain tells me to hit children and I have to fight it is proof of that. She was like, maybe listen to your brain instead of your heart, you have guilt issues. Like LOL okay thanks a lot you little shit. I told her if she can't understand it then she can stay away from the kids until she does. Made her apologies to 7 years old which was legit like trying to get blood out of a stone. She was so mad at me and ended up crying so we had the longest chat about some deep stuff and I think we are okay again now. It's weird she gets hell angry when I'm mom-ish towards her but I've realized if I keep kind of pushing and don't give up then it usually gets to where she opens up. I don't care what I will actually do if she does it again so I'm praying she won't. If I can get them all through until school starts then I think life will become a lot easier for everyone. All of them are waitlisted for in-person therapy, 3-5 threw a fit about it, but I told them it's non-negotiable, and I'm anxious for that to start and hopefully get some progress as I feel like we have hit a wall with some stuff to be honest. But yeah that's a snapshot of the chaos right now aware I'm literally just venting on here now LOL but it's good to get my thoughts out and I always get so much good advice here. And DW, I haven't gone full insane yet and I don't hate my life, I'm just in struggle town. Keep telling myself it's temporary and school will be my lifesaver. 5 weeks to go. Birthday ideas. We have all 4 of the younger kids' birthdays coming up between January 25th and February 14th, and I just thought I'd see if anyone had any ideas for things to do. They've never really celebrated a birthday before, so they will be happy with anything, but I want it to be special, and also keep it affordable enough that we can do the same amount for them every year without having to stress heaps about our budget. Like, I don't want to give them any crazy expectations. So far the idea is a few presents, a cake, and a 1-to-1 outing with me or Matt, or both of us if they want, to do something special next year. When they have friends here we can do something with friends. I've asked them what they would like to do. 13-year-old wants to go out for food, just me and her, so that's cool. The others aren't too sure, the younger ones are still not over Christmas. For presents we're kind of thinking if we spend less on the younger ones then we can use more of the budget for the older two. I don't care, I feel guilty about it, but I know they won't care notice, and it will mean a lot more to the teenagers to get stuff they really want. 7 years old doesn't even know what she wants, and we have a neighbor here who has said I can have all her similar aged daughter's stuff for free that they're getting rid of to make space for new Christmas stuff, all in really good condition and stuff she'd like. Like a dollhouse with a whole bag of characters. And Matt found a bike on Facebook for really cheap and got it for 9 years old because we know she wants one. She hasn't asked, but I can tell. He's just getting a new bell for it and she'll love it. If I get her a couple more little things then I think she'll be so happy and we will have spent hardly anything. Then I can use the money for 13 and 12-year-old. 13 years old would love an iPhone, and I've been really unsure about it, but if we can get a second-hand one then I will probably just get her one because I don't want her starting a new school as the odd one out. 12 years old I think wants to go to a movie, first time ever, and for presents he was like, I already got loads for Christmas, and didn't really give me any ideas, but I think I know a few things I can get that he'd like. No idea where to take 7 and 9 years old for an outing that they'd really like. 7 years old just wants to stay home and play Jelly Monsters in my bed, and I'm like, girl, we can do something new and fun, but her birthday is last, so I hope she will be inspired by the others doing things, lol. But yeah, I don't care what to do, so any ideas or anything I can do to make their birthdays more special would be good. I'm kind of overwhelmed because of not doing birthdays at all before, like fully don't exist in our family. Last time someone IRL said happy birthday to me it was my teacher when I was 15. My mum doesn't agree with people being celebrated for being born, except her and my dad. And if we mentioned birthdays she was like, if you want to celebrate someone you can celebrate me since I did all the hard work. Some of her most abusive times were on people's birthdays even though the kid mostly didn't even know it was their birthday. So the kids will love whatever we do, but I really want them to feel so special. And if I'm being a psycho thinking we can spend way more on presents for the older two then tell me, but I don't care, I just think it makes sense. Thank you. I want to say a genuine thank you to everyone for all your kindness and advice on my posts. Sorry I don't reply to you all, but I promise I do always read everything and appreciate everyone taking the time to read the shit I post and comment message me. I only post to my own profile now so that only people that follow me and actually care will see stuff, and still whenever I post I'm like, people probably don't care anymore, but then you do. It is crazy to me that anyone cares. If I sent a paragraph about one of the kids to my parents they wouldn't read it. Posting really helps me organize my thoughts, it's like a journal or something, and genuinely the amount of times I start writing some bullshit and it makes me realize I'm being a psycho or something, lmao. The outsider POV is so good for me when I'm so wrapped up in it, and I think it's good for me and Matt because if I didn't write all this stuff here I'd be saying it to him and he'd be so done with me so fast, lol. Can't say thank you enough times, and if you CBA with me updating please let me know and I'll just keep all my thoughts in my drafts where I keep all the fucked up stuff, lmao. Relevant comment. OOP responds to multiple comments about her situation and how strong she is along with her older brother for taking care of their siblings. Reply, thank you small. One of the craziest things is the amount of people who have messaged saying they have been or are in the same situation as us. My favorite is when people message me saying their big sister raised them and they are still close and things turned out good. Used to think it must be so rare, but it's really not, and as much as I don't wish bad parents on anyone it is nice to not be alone in that. Hope your step kids are all doing good now. World's longest vent. I don't care what this post is, to be honest, I guess a vent because we had a rough couple days and I'm down a hole in my own brain rn. Apparently Reddit is my coping mechanism, a diary that replies lol. 14 years old got a phone for her birthday. She loves it and says it's the best present she's ever got. Matt put some restrictions on it and we take it off her in the evening because I don't want her getting full addicted to it. First night I took it off her she started whining so bad and I was like, hell nah, I'm not going to fight you for it every night. If you do this again tomorrow we'll rethink the phone thing. Matt and my older sister spoke to her about it heaps because she didn't want to talk to me, but the next night she came and gave me her phone before I even asked for it. After that everything was fine with the phone situ. Thought we were all good. talked about it and wrote down the rules so we had them in black and white. She was being pretty good and was full off my radar of issues. Until she started a fight with 17 years old and it carried on over text and went way too far and she made 17 years old cry. She deleted her messages but literally stupidest fucking thing ever because I could read the whole thing on 17 years old's phone and see what she said. I was so done I took her phone and told her I was gonna speak to Matt about if and when she could have it back. She tried saying everything she could think of to make me give it back but I wasn't budging. So unfair, because she only just got it on her birthday but like I don't care if you got it 5 minutes ago, if you're using it to say horrible shit you wouldn't have the balls to say IRL then it's gone. Got the usual, "You're not my mom" speech from her and I was just like it doesn't matter if I'm your mom or your sister or your third cousin, I'm responsible for you so it's tough. She was mad, we discussed it so much and got nowhere. I was hell over it and I had a lot of shit to do so I just let her be mad and stopped even trying to sort it out. The next day I had a rare moment of peace from the baby and little kids and was about to go speak to Matt about the phone thing and 14 years old comes into my room with a belt in her hand and tells me to hit her with it so she can get her phone back. She's like, "I don't like your punishments, I just want you to hit me and leave me alone." Like girl WTF. This isn't the first time this kind of thing has happened to be honest. Multiple of the kids used to tell me to hit them but that was like a year ago when I started doing more normal parenting stuff and they hated it. They would be like hell confused by me telling them they couldn't do something and would be like, "Why don't you just hit me if you're mad at me?" Used to go round and round with them saying I'm not mad at you. They'd be like, "Why are you not letting me go out then?" And I'm saying because you did this or that, or it's too late and I want you to go to bed soon or whatever the reason, and they full didn't get it. They could not understand me discipline them but not being mad. But this was defo different and shocked me especially because it's been so long since any of them have said stuff like that and because I am always talking about how I don't want them hitting each other and it's a daily issue trying to get them to quit. Like I don't care in what world she'd think I'd be like, "Okay yeah pass me the belt and forget everything I've said about how violence doesn't solve problems." Anyway I took the belt off her and told her I was not going to hit her with anything and we went round in circles about it until she legit started crying from frustration that I was saying no. Yelling at me and having a tantrum and saying I don't ever do what she wants. I was getting pissed off and knew I was about to lose my shit so I walked off and left her in my room. I was trying to create some space for her and me to calm down but she followed me still yelling and then during us arguing we ended up back in my room. Matt started getting involved and that did not help because he was struggling to not get mad at her for how she was speaking to me and he had his scary dad voice on which works with the other kids but turns 14 years old into a gray rock. Had to tell him to go because as much as she was pissing me off I prefer her to be yelling than silent and I knew we needed to have it out because it's been a couple months of a lot of bad vibes with her. Told him to go just keep the other kids away because didn't need them interrupting. After I don't care how much longer but felt like ages I was trying not to but I kind of lost my shit and was yelling back at her and told her to stop acting so fucking crazy and that she wasn't getting her phone back at all if she didn't stop yelling crying and I was all like obviously you can't handle having a phone if you're acting like this. Over it. To be honest I was being a bitch ATP because I know she wasn't being like this over just the phone, it was a whole stack of stuff. I could feel myself about to go on a power trip and I wanted to do the whole, "when I was your age I had it way worse" crap. But I literally remind myself multiple times a day not to do that so I fought it so hard realized how annoying I was being and it snapped me out of it and I had to check myself and realize this kid is legit stood there asking me to beat her with a belt and I'm trying to be mad at her. She's honestly been so annoying recently I realized I go into situations with her already with like half my patience gone. So I sat on my bed whilst she's still yelling at me and I tried my best to just get away from my anger and think about how I could actually fix it without making things even worse. How she was acting literally reminded me of dealing with 7 years old so I was like maybe I need to treat her like I treat 7 years old. Which is literally just holding her until she calms down even when she's so mad at me. It's way more awkward with the older ones but I realized it was worth a try before I full ruined it with her and made her never come to me again. So I pulled her into my lap and hugged her. Hell awkward at first but I was like this is literally all I have RN. She fought me for a minute and told me to get off her. Ignored her and she eventually stopped fighting and relaxed and cried and then started saying, "I'm mad at you," but in a sad way not an angry way. I was like, "I know you are but nothing you say will make me hit you. Sorry for yelling at you blah blah blah." Think she needed to just cry. She felt so small when I was hugging her and her crying was so sad and she smelt like my body spray which got me because she has been acting like she hates me but she still uses my stuff because she wants to smell like me which she used to do all the time. Then I started crying. She was still saying she wants her phone back and I felt so mean but wasn't gonna say yes. Just kept saying we would talk about it later but I need to talk to Matt first. I was happy that I felt mean to be honest because recently I DGAF when I have to discipline her, so feeling mean was good because it shows I like her again, I guess lol. I need to stop typing because this is getting too long and I'm rambling, but we ended things on a pretty good note. First time in ages that I've felt like I'm in a good place with her and we understood each other. Had to agree to disagree on some stuff, but we also agreed on stuff we need to work on. I think I need to be more aggressively loving with her. I usually let the older ones come to me, but I have realized I need to try initiate stuff more. I don't think 14 years old actually knows how to come and be like, I'm sad I need a hug. And it must be hard when I have the younger kids so attached to me. Gonna make an effort to be more loving and remind myself she's also a kid and I have to be more patient. I expect her to act more mature because of how I was at her age, but I have to stop doing that. I didn't have a mom-type person annoying me and I could do what I wanted, so obviously wasn't gonna be having tantrums about having my phone taken away. My mom couldn't give a fuck if I was doing OnlyFans at 14, let alone being like, oh, you can't have your phone at night because you need your sleep. So yeah, I didn't act like her, but it's a good thing she's different and more normal. Afterwards though, I've been feeling kinda anxious about it because out of all the shit the kids do on a daily basis, they have never been literally begging me to hurt them like she was, and it's making me feel really fucked up and like I need to do more with her. Still waiting for therapy, but I've already said to Matt that she needs to be our priority RN because she has legit gone under the radar and I think way more goes on in her head that should be freaking us out. We always think it's 17 years old and 7 years old who struggle most, but I'm realizing they have just expressed it more. And now I'm like, what if the others are actually worse inside their heads? So I'm spiraling FML. Also just generally so anxious lately and I keep freaking out if I don't have the baby with me and she's crying. Like I cannot trust anyone with her when she's crying, my brain is full convinced they will hurt her to shut her up. When Matt had the kids whilst I took 10 years old, feels weird typing that, out for her birthday, I was having the nicest time but my brain kept being like, he could be hurting the baby right now whilst I'm sat here laughing eating frozen yogurt. Need to sort my shit out FR, but yeah, life is still mostly good, probably hilarious to most PPL, but I swear so many little things make me so happy. Like I love when I put the kids to bed and get to just do stuff like have a shower and do laundry and not have to worry about my parents or Nan being around. Used to be like the house could turn into a screaming match and horrible shit could happen at any time of day with no warning. Things are chaotic now, but because of kid chaos, not toxic adult chaos and abuse. It's so nice and I feel kinda relaxed for the first time ever. Having clean clothes always and kids who feel safe enough to get out of bed to come ask me for something. Shit like that just makes me happy. So I don't care if it makes sense, but I'm hell anxious and hell relaxed at the same time lol. Said I'd shut up and then carried on for so long. Thanks if you have read this far, sorry for the massive vent and thanks for coming to my story time. Always wonder why I post these, but this whole situ threw me so much I just need to get it out and see if anyone has advice. Have spoken to my therapist and might try get more sessions because I don't need to be anxious mess and I want to be able to leave the baby without a mental breakdown. Also I don't care what to do about this phone thing, it is already SM drama, but I don't feel like I cannot let her have it back, it feels kinda cruel, I don't care help. The kids started school and obviously that's up and down with so many of them all having very different feelings about it, but mostly so far so good except for 7 years old who is 100% not happy about it, but it's only been a few days. Also thanks SM for the birthday ideas, used a bunch of them and I will post about them once we've had the last birthday, and I'm finishing writing this whilst up early AF with the baby and sleep deprived, so yeah, as always excuse my tired ramblings. Stories number 14. Aita for being brutally honest to my wife about cheating. So this happened over the past weekend, we were at a party with friends and this question popped up. We essentially had a small never had I ever game, which is pretty childish looking back, but we're all in our later 20s so it isn't that bad. One of the questions was, never have I ever forgiven a partner for cheating. A few people counted that as something they did, including my wife. I expressed my surprise about it, since I wouldn't expect her of all people to give someone a chance after cheating. Other than that, the night went on just fine and I was driving us home. I don't drink, I hate alcohol. I asked her about the whole situation with forgiving a partner for cheating. In her words, her ex-boyfriend of so many years back cheated on her. He came clean about it and they tried again, but then he went and did it again in the same manner. She said she didn't regret giving him a second chance and would do the same if I happened to cheat. I figure this is just her being drunk, I have no intention of cheating on her. In absence of any answer from me, she asks if I'd do the same for her. I bluntly told her that I wouldn't be able to forgive cheating, nor would I ever expect to be forgiven for cheating if I somehow ended up doing it. Short of physical abuse or other heinous acts, it's the worst thing you can do to someone you love. I don't know what happened to her after that, but she stopped talking the rest of the car ride. Ever since then, she's been dead silent around me. She isn't her usual bubbly self and is withdrawn when I have conversations with her. She avoids any questions about what happened on Saturday night too. I asked our mutual friends about any context I may have missed, and a few of them said that she must have taken it a bit too hard. As in me not being able to forgive her for hypothetical cheating means I don't love her as much as she loves me. Her two oldest friends kind of implied that I shouldn't have been so blunt about it. Update. I'd have to say about 90% of the comments immediately went to her being a cheat or planning on cheating with some handsome doctor. That isn't what's happening here. I pressed the issue when I got home last night and she finally cracked. She said she felt like I thought less of her for choosing to give her ex one more chance, and felt hurt to hear me speak about ending our marriage so frankly. Obviously I didn't mean to hurt her with what I thought would be a meaningless hypothetical. I explained that I valued our relationship too much to cheat on her, which is what I meant by my answer. We had a much longer chat about why she felt so down and I think we got to the crux of the matter. She confessed to still having fears of me having an affair like he did and losing the relationship. In short, she feels like she hasn't actually processed the cheating from her old relationship. Her ex was her first relationship, so having him cheat on her clearly messed up her self-confidence. She was anxious during the first year or so during our relationship because of some female friends I had and who are still in my life. Her ex cheated with one of his friends both times. She came clean about checking my phone for any secret chats or apps during our entire relationship. We both know each other's passwords and use the other person's phones freely. So when I said that I wouldn't tolerate having an affair, whether it be on my side or hers, she just felt guilty about being so worried all the time. I think she would benefit from some form of counseling to help get over this, which she agrees with, so now we're planning on getting individual therapy for her and possibly something for the both of us. At the same time I'm reassuring her that this isn't a marriage-ending issue and that I'm not angry at her. Needless to say, things are still off at home but much better now that this is all out in the open now. Stories number 15. I 35M just got called ugly by my wife 30F and I can't get over it. Am I insane? I 35M work as a lawyer and I make a decent wage, nothing too substantial. I met my wife 30F through our family and arranged marriage which we have had for 6 years. Granted I'm not the best looking guy, I may have gained a bit of weight since work doesn't exactly let me have enough free time to spend in the gym. Though I'd always assumed I was average, but my wife recently fixed that misunderstanding on my part. This happened a few days ago when I had a day off. I was feeling myself a bit and was flirting with my wife. I don't want to get into the details of the conversation as it chokes me up just thinking about it and makes my blood boil, but it ended with me talking about how it was love at first sight. My wife is very pretty, anyway, she retorted with, maybe for you, but I thought you looked like a troll. I tried to tease her a bit thinking it was a joke, but she was serious and apparently only married me because I had a stable good career and I don't know what to think. I just can't get the words out of my head. Each time I look at her I feel ugly, unworthy, angry. I don't know why, I just hate the person I see in the mirror now. She's noticed my change. I've been very distant, not staying in the house, working late, going out with friends in the little free time I have, or I'll just walk in the park, anything just to be away from her eyes, those judgmental eyes. She said she's worried, but I can't take it as anything but empty platitudes. Am I insane? Why do I feel like this? I just want to curl up into a ball or punch something. Stories number 16. How do I, 31F, handle my husband's, 36M, Super Bowl party? My, 31F, husband, 36M, and I are supposed to be having a Super Bowl party tomorrow. We have been in a fight for weeks, and he invited people while we were fighting. I have no idea how many he invited, or the guest list. Most of our friends all stem from his friend group. I only invited one friend and her husband. I've asked him if he coordinated for people to bring shareable contributions. Doesn't answer. I ask him how many and who is coming. Doesn't answer. I ask him what time people are coming. Doesn't answer. He's not the kind of person that plays host well, that always falls on me. He doesn't think about making sure people are fed and have drinks, etc. It's the night before and we have nothing in our fridge to suggest we have food to heat up or make. No beverages to get us through a party. How do I handle this situation? On one hand I'm tempted to let this party be a disaster, but on the other hand I'll be embarrassed if it is. Update. I had the courage to ask one of his best buddies if my husband told anyone to bring contributions and he said no. Second update, additional info, his friends all have wives that I am friends with. Half of them have kids. I don't know who's coming, but I can't bank on it just being a guy's party. Top comments. Commenter 1, tell your friend that you can't host, and don't be there. Watch the game at a bar, or a friend's house, or skip it all together and go to a movie. Reply, I think this is what he's doing, cause if I do nothing I'll get blamed or embarrassed in front of his friends. If I do something, then I'm bailing him out, taking shots in the dark at what this party needs. Commenter 2, if I were you I'd plan to attend a party elsewhere and leave him to it. Reply, I unfortunately don't have many friends, besides the friend I invited all my friends are his friends' wives. GFS. I asked one of them if my husband told her husband to bring anything and she said, not that I know of. And I don't feel great about messaging anyone else cause I don't want them to know what's going on. Commenter 3, stop being his mum and let him be embarrassed. You're welcome to let people know ahead of time he hasn't sorted food or drinks or let your friends send it around to people. You're not responsible for him. If anyone says you are, they are assholes. Watch the game in a different room, or if anyone asks for anyone, direct them to your husband and say he organized today and didn't want you involved. Don't give in. He's getting his cake and eating it too. Commenter 4, agreed, OP shouldn't even stress about it. Reply, oh but I am stressed. I'll look like the idiot when this inevitably fails. Everyone knows my husband can't be trusted with hosting anything. OOP on why the husband doesn't talk and what the fight was about. Reply, it started with me telling him about certain things he does that upset me. He gave his typical response of, you shouldn't have married me then. Then it escalated when I found out he was charging our shared credit card, which is meant for shared expenses, for personal things like Pokemon cards, $1,000 worth in a single month. I told him it was shady to charge our shared credit card and not tell me, to which he replied, I don't owe you any explanation, it's my credit card. Mind you, we each have like 5 to 8 personal credit cards. This one in particular was our shared one. Then he got angry that I was accusing him of being shady. Commenter 5, so instead of taking accountability for the things that he is doing to upset you, he puts it back on you, you shouldn't have married me then. The writing is on the wall. He is telling you who he is. Reply, oh always. He gets mad with me if I tell him why I'm upset, and then he also gets mad with me when I don't tell him why I'm upset. So basically I'm just not supposed to ever be upset, especially not over something he does. How long has OOP been with her husband? Reply, we've been together 7 years, married 3 months, no kids. Fighting over his treatment of me and him charging personal expenses on our shared credit card without telling me. Editor's note, OOP updated in the same post. Update, first, thank you everyone for the support and advice. I truly did not think I'd have the tiniest fraction of a response as I did. It was a lot to take in. And the comments conversation started taking an even deeper turn I wasn't prepared to address. I know my update will be disappointing for a lot of people, but here it is. Yesterday morning, my husband spoke 0 words to me until his buddy, the one I had the courage to text the day before, called him late in the morning to ask what was going on the plan. I think he partially did it cause even the guys don't like going into such a party with no game plan, and also I think he could read between the lines of my desperation the day prior and was trying to light a fire under my husband's ass. After that, all of a sudden my husband was motivated to do stuff and trying to confirm heads counts. Ultimately only his one buddy and his wife showed up. And then my 2 friends. For reference, last year when I organized the Super Bowl party we had 30+ people attend. So that's what I was initially expecting. Can't say for sure what caused such a huge difference in turnout, but likely all our friends could tell there was 0 planning and didn't want to partake in an important event so unorganized. Knowing half the party was now my friends, I decided to step in. We went to the store together and grabbed necessities. He acted like all was normal the whole rest of the day. Flash forward to today, he isn't giving me the silent treatment anymore, but it's certainly tense, not enjoyable conversation. No, I didn't get any thank you jokes. I can understand why everyone wanted me to leave for the party. Maybe I'm a pushover, but when you are in these situations where standing up for yourself is ridiculed as being vindictive, you start walking on eggshells more and doing what you can to prevent arguments. Also disclaimer, we are Eagles fans, so for my sake I did not want to preemptively put a damper on my evening in case there would be a positive outcome to the game. Again, thank you everyone, and I am sorry my update isn't juicer. Stories number 17. Aita for asking my brother to pay to use the family cabin after he refused to help restore it. A few years ago, my 35M grandparents passed away and left behind a beautiful but very run-down lakeside cabin. It had been in our family for generations, but by the time it was passed down, it was in rough shape, the wood was rotting, the roof leaked, and the plumbing was ancient. My parents, not wanting the hassle, offered it to my younger brother, Matt, 30M, first, since he had always talked about how much he loved the place growing up. At first, Matt was excited, but when he saw the actual state of the cabin, he quickly changed his mind. The renovations would cost tens of thousands of dollars, and the upkeep was more than he was willing to commit to. He told my parents that he wasn't in a position to take on such a big project and that it was too much work for a vacation home. So they turned to me. I thought about it for a while, and even though I knew it would be a lot of work, I loved that cabin. I spent almost every summer there as a kid, fishing with my grandpa and roasting marshmallows with my cousins. It meant something to me. So I took it. The thing is, taking ownership wasn't just signing some papers, it was years of work and tens of thousands of dollars. I had to replace the roof, reinforce the foundation, fix the plumbing, and completely redo the deck, which was one bad storm away from collapsing. It became my after-work project, but it also became a major financial commitment. Every spare dollar I had went into fixing up that place. I've asked my family to help out many times, whether financially or physically with labor, but no one ever did. Fast forward to a few years later, and Matt reaches out saying he and his wife want to take their kids on a summer vacation and would love to use the cabin for a week. I told him sure, but he'd need to contribute $500 to cover utilities and general wear and tear. He flipped out. He said I was being greedy for charging family and that the grandparents wouldn't want the cabin to be a business. I reminded him that he had the chance to take ownership, and he chose not to because he didn't want the responsibility. Now that I've poured my time and money into making it a livable space, it's not fair for him to expect a free vacation just because we share blood. He argued that, it's not like you're paying rent on it, and, you were gonna be there anyway. But that's not the point. If I let him stay for free, where do I draw the line? Do I have to offer it to every cousin, uncle, or second cousin twice removed who wants a weekend getaway? If Matt contributes nothing but gets free access, doesn't that mean I'm basically paying for his vacation? He didn't want to deal with the responsibilities, he just wants the benefits now that I've taken on all the costs. Matt hasn't spoken to me since, and our mom keeps telling me I'm being unfair. Am I the asshole for expecting him to chip in, or is he just entitled? Stories number 18. Wife flirty texting and sending pics. So, this weekend we were at a local bar for a celebration of life. Shortly after we got there, barely into the first drink, my wife goes outside to smoke. Apparently while she was out there she gave a guy her number, but did not mention it to me when she came back in. She was however whisper talking to friends about a hot guy she just met outside. FF to the next evening, we are driving home and she's texting with somebody right next to me, but every time I look over to talk she turns her phone away. After a few texts she gets another text from a mutual long-time friend and starts talking about that text but still see her going back to another. Just a little suspicious at this point. We get home and get settled in, I'm laying down and she says she's just going to listen to a few songs then be up. About 3 hours later I'm half asleep when she comes up and goes in the bathroom with her phone and a new lingerie she got. She's in there almost 30 minutes and when she comes out tries hiding the lingerie so I don't see it. Now I'm really suspicious. Next morning I get up, take out the dog and start to work but can't stop thinking about the suspicious behavior. I normally wouldn't look at her phone but do at this point. There are flirty texts with this guy who asked her to send a picture. She sent 2, fully clothed pictures to him and asked for one in return. He at work so says he can just send an older picture of his face to which she replies, gorgeous, couple more texts like him saying he can't wait to see that body and her saying she hopes to see him again soon. There were no other pictures and the messages seemed to end abruptly. Of course I'm furious and wake her up immediately to confront her. After she gets her bearings she said it was nothing, she just wanted the attention. I'm angry and asking what her endgame is to which she gets angry back and very defensive. She said she was drunk and didn't know why she took her lingerie in the bathroom with her phone for so long. If there were any pics like that, they were deleted but she swears there wasn't but also claims to be so drunk she doesn't really remember why she took it in there. I ask her who the guy is and she said she met him the day before, while we were together, and she was drunk and didn't remember meeting him. She had just woken up and got ready before we got to the event and was only a couple sips into her first drink, so definitely not drunk at that point, but did get really drunk by the end of the day. There was no way she was drunk when she gave a random, hot dude her number while she was out with her husband. I left yesterday after confronting her and only went home to shower and do some work today. She said it was nothing and I'm overreacting. I think it was very disrespectful and who knows where it would have went if I didn't confront her. She deleted the guy's messages and contact info after I said I wanted to talk to him to find out how the initial convo went when she gave him her number. Am I overreacting by being very angry and staying away from home for a while? TLDR, wife gave a guy her number while out with me on the DL. Next night flirty texted while sitting right next to me and trying to hide it, sent pics and asked for pics. Said she was drunk and didn't remember meeting him and wanted the attention. Edited to make paragraphs, sorry I've only ever really posted pictures of my dog. More info. Yes, this is, unfortunately, real. I have a few screenshots before she deleted the messages I had seen. She left her phone out for me when I came home for a bit for me to check while she was asleep in another room and of course there was nothing there. No, we do not have kids, just a dog. We are both very social and it's not unusual for one of us to meet a new friend while we're out and exchange numbers, but we always introduce the person to each other and invite them to join our table. That didn't happen this time. She does act remorseful and sorry but also says I'm overreacting. She has mentioned going to a couples counselor. She's on Reddit regularly, so I told her to post here to see if the general populace thinks I'm overreacting. She said I should do it because I'm the victim. Stories number 19. Aita for reading during my lunch break, then getting a bit snarky with a colleague. At the school where I work, as well as the main library, we have a mini library in each classroom. During my lunch breaks, I like to sit in my classroom and read a book from my classroom's mini library for about 10 or 15 minutes, as it helps me relax ahead of the afternoon. Today, one of my colleagues, not a superior, saw me doing this and accused me of stealing, as the books are for students, not a staff. She said that if I do it again, she'll report me. I don't remove the books from the classroom and I put it back after my short reading time. I don't try to discourage kids from borrowing books. Even if it's the one I'm currently reading, I can continue it when the kid brings it back. The students aren't allowed in that part of the building over lunch, so they don't even know I do this, so would have no reason to feel discouraged from borrowing books. Several colleagues, including members of SLT, have come into my classroom to ask me something while I've been reading, and no one has had a problem with it before. I explained all this to my colleague, but she said, there's no excuse for stealing from work. I reminded her that staff can borrow, and even take home, books from the main library, so why wouldn't I be allowed to read books from a mini library, and I asked if there was a rule against it. She said, you shouldn't have to be told that stealing is wrong, and asked whether, if she caught me swiping a school laptop, I'd expect her to turn a blind eye. I laughed at this, I couldn't help it, and asked if she was seriously comparing me reading a book with stealing a laptop. She said, stealing is stealing. I told her to report me if she wants, and it'll give everyone a good laugh. She got angry and told me that stealing is no joke, that my attitude is disgusting, and reiterated that if she finds out I've done this again, she will report me, before walking off. Feel free to disagree, but I still don't think reading one of the school's books over my lunch break is stealing, but I feel a bit bad for being rude to my colleague Aita. Stories number 20. Ada, if I'm upset that my husband mentioned getting a paternity test. My 31F husband, 32M, just mentioned that he's keen on getting a paternity test for our 3-week-old baby girl. His reasoning is that our daughter has darker hair than him, he has brown hair, I'm white blonde. I'm a little confused as she hardly has any bloody hair, and this just feels like he's accusing me of infidelity. I actually thought he was joking initially. The conversation went as follows. He said, her hair is really dark. So I said, yeah, it is, even though it isn't darker than his. He then mentioned getting the test. It was completely out of the blue. I initially said that he should go for it as I wasn't thinking. But, now I've had some time to reflect, I'm really not happy about it. If he wants to get the test, fine by me, but it just feels like he doesn't trust me. Am I overthinking this? He has no reason to think like this. He even went as far as to say, if she wasn't mine biologically, she'd still be my girl. That statement just pissed me off, and I've said nothing to him since. So, Ada. Update 1. Thanks for all the comments and advice. There seems to be some common responses, so I thought I'd just reply to them here. I'm more than happy for him to get the test, but, as most have mentioned, that would confirm his lack of trust in me, his wife, and I don't think I could overlook that. I think I'll seek some counseling to discuss this issue further. I'll be inviting him to join me. Some mentioned that our daughter might have been swapped at birth and the test would benefit us both. I can assure all of these commentators that she didn't leave my side once throughout our hospital stay, from her entrance to the world, to her leaving the hospital with us. I'm very happy that she's our little one. Most people mention projection on his part. I must admit I hadn't thought about this. I'm almost certain that this isn't the case, but I will discuss my fears concerns with him as this is now at the forefront of my mind. I will update accordingly. Thank you all. Stories number 21. My parents took out loans in my name and claim they didn't know. Now I'm in debt with a ruined credit score. Hi everyone, I'm going to try to give as much context as I can while not making this too long. To begin, my parents and I have always had an emotionally charged relationship. In high school I never felt seen or heard by them and expressed this, literally begging them to just tell me they're proud of me here and there. They accused me of being snippy and argumentative, and I was because I was often hurt by their neglect while my siblings received more coddling and emotional caretaking. Then, freshman year of college, I had moved away several hours to my dream school and to claim independence. I deliberately worked so I could have my own money because I never wanted to have to ask them, even though I knew they would if I would just ask. They have good jobs and make a well above average amount for middle class. My first year we got into fights because I never reached out to them or called. They never texted or called either, so this seemed out of nowhere at the time. It should be said that I've also never had a close connection with them that allowed me to share personal life details. I never felt safe enough to confide things in them based on past experiences. My sophomore year was wretched and I had horrible relationship issues that were compounded by the isolation of 2020 COVID and being confined to a dorm room. There was a time after I had met with an advisor and it hadn't gone well and I called my mom sobbing telling her I think about dying. There was little to no sympathy and the conversation was turned toward how my political beliefs differ from her and my dad's, a common point of contention. Later that year the election came up and I reposted a screen grab of a Parks and Rec episode on Facebook. The meme had the subtitles changed so that Ron Swanson said the only mental illness he had in his family was, an uncle who believes Trump is the second coming of Christ. In the comments on the post my dad and aunt accused me of hating my great uncle that served in a war. My dad commented that I should just pay for school myself if I wanted to disrespect them like that. I then texted him stating that his comments hurt my feelings. This all later resulted in a huge fight where they said they would no longer pay for my schooling like they had my siblings. I told them if they are going to behave this way then I wasn't coming home for the holidays. I immediately looked into community colleges in the area, apartments, and was going to go full-time as a CNA and drop out because I knew I could never afford the loans or tuition. They later apologized on FaceTime but things have never been the same. Now I have always been grateful to my parents for paying for my school. I was given a chance to start my life with an education debt-free which is miles ahead of others but they've always used this as leverage over me. Guilt and shame are their favorite tools for getting what they want. Fast forward to today our relationships have been strained over the years but we've gradually built connection. I still live several hours away but I see them pretty regularly and my current fiancé and I have been on several camping trips with them and my fiancé even asked my dad's permission to marry me. My mom is making all of the flowers for my wedding and they've given us money to put toward the event. Things have been going pretty well. Until yesterday. For several months I had been receiving emails from Ant Financial about loans being behind on payments and just recently being reported as delinquent. I thought they were spam as I had no notion of having student loans. I asked my dad and he said it was likely spam as they did not take loans out. Yesterday, I received an email from the credit union that I got my first CC with when I was 18, that my mom is co-signed with. This was saying that I took a serious hit to my credit score due to delinquent accounts. Come to find out there are $14,000 of student loans that have not been getting paid for months and my credit score went from 750 to 550 overnight. Incredibly alarmed and scared I reached out to my parents. They blew it off and didn't give me any answers. I later called my dad and he was immediately angry at me while I sobbed on the phone. I tried to explain to him that I wasn't angry at them but at the situation and I'm just scared and confused how I suddenly have all of these debts and my credit score is ruined. He accused me of being ungrateful for all the money they put toward my college and said that $14,000 isn't even that big of a deal. I explained to him that maybe it's not but it is when it comes out of nowhere, is nearly half of my annual income, and almost the entire amount of my life savings. I've done everything right and always paid my bills on time, saved money and been good. Now it's all meaningless. I explained how this happening on top of getting married this fall, taking over my insurance and hoping to get into nursing school is detrimental. My fiancé and I wanted to get a house and start a family in the next 5 to 8 years and now it feels hopeless. I told him that if I had known about the loans I would have been paying them. He then responded by twisting my words and accusing me of claiming that I never would have gone to school if I had had to get loans. I corrected him and told him that I never said that, only that I would have paid them if I had known. Of course my mom took his side and said I need to call my undergrad's financial office and figure out the payments, which I had no experience with or part in setting up, and sort this out myself. When I asked for help they avoided answering and said I need to call the bank and dispute it myself. They claim no knowledge of the loans but after I did research they do check out and are legit FAFSA government loans. I paid what I could yesterday. I later texted them, I'm not trying to fight, I just would have appreciated some sympathy over this situation. I'm sure you guys can understand that this is a scary thing to have to deal with when I wasn't expecting it, which was met with more passive-aggressive from my mom. We were trying also. Relax, you will get answers and a plan. I'm just not sure what we were supposed to say to you. To which I said, just an I'm sorry this is happening would have been fine, and the conversation finished with this text from her, well we are sorry. We wish you didn't have to deal with this. We have tried to make your lives easier than we had. Now the current issue is I don't care where to go from here. I made it clear to my parents that I do not expect them to pay the loans, I just wish that they would be sympathetic to the situation, support me emotionally, and maybe just apologize for taking out loans unknowingly. They've sent 3 kids to college now and I'd think they would have known. My fiancé wants to go no contact and remove their invitation to the wedding. He is on my side and is furious over how they've treated me all my life compared to my siblings. My older sister is the only one of the three of us who also knows about this RN, and she is very sympathetic, but she still lives with them and I'm sure will want to preserve their relationship as much as she can, which is understandable. I just don't know what to do. I scheduled with my therapist who has helped me with all of this. I'm tempted to just trash the whole wedding and elope like we originally wanted to, but my fiancé isn't sure about that at this point. Any advice is helpful. Stories number 22. We have been together for 6 years and this is a topic that keeps coming up with no real solution. When we moved in together after a few months of dating, he barged into the bathroom a couple of times when I was showering. No warning and not out of need, he just wanted to look at me, I suppose, because he just said hi, watched me for a few seconds, and left. I tried to rationalize it for myself as cute, but the fact is it made me uncomfortable, so I asked him not to do that anymore. I explained I want to focus on my self-care routine and privacy and I don't feel comfortable with him coming in, especially jump scare style, since our bathroom door opens with quite a loud click, which startles me when I'm in the middle of my routine. I'd have no problem if he asked to come in to grab something he needs, but when he watches me like that, it feels sexual when I'm in a busy, not sexy mood. Over the years, he has still done this occasionally, which has led me to shower with the door locked. He doesn't understand why, because as he says, it's not like he hasn't seen me like this before. Lately, there have been a couple of times he has demanded me to open the door. The first time I did, because he just said, "Open the door," with quite a stern tone, and when I asked why, he didn't respond. I thought it might be something urgent, but that was not the case. When I opened the door, he just said he still doesn't understand why I have to lock it. Today he demanded it again in the same way, but I didn't open the door since he didn't give me any explanation and I was in the middle of drying myself. I just said I'd be out in a minute. When I came out, he seemed slightly upset and claimed he just wanted to hop in the shower quickly after his workout. It didn't make sense to me because he wasn't in a hurry to go anywhere and he knows I don't take long once I'm already out of the shower. TLDR, my fiancé keeps wanting to come into the bathroom to watch me naked, or so it seems, even when I lock the door, and doesn't understand my want for privacy. I have tried to explain why it makes me uncomfortable many times, but it seems futile. How do I help him understand my boundary? Stories number 23. Aita for refusing to spend another dime on step-kids and step-grands. I, 38F, and husband, 50M, have been married for 10 years and have a 1-year-old daughter together. He has a son, 30M, and daughter, 28F, from a previous marriage. Since my husband and I have been together, I have always bought his children birthday presents, Christmas presents, and gifts cards every holiday. They have always made snood comments about me being too festive, but my love language is gift giving. Well, they both have children now. His son has 3 children under the age of 5, and his daughter has twin 2-year-old daughters. This past Christmas his daughter and her husband hosted our family Christmas party. During the gift exchange each household exchanged the gift they bought for the other households. For context, his children have never bought Christmas presents for me, which I am fine with. I have always been the one to purchase the gifts for my step-children and my step-grandchildren. My husband gives the adult kids gift cards. So while the gifts were being passed out, it quickly became apparent that this year they not only didn't buy anything for me but not his for my 1-year-old daughter, their half-sister, so everyone at the party had gifts to open. My husband, my stepson and his wife, their 3 sons, my stepdaughter, her husband and twin daughters, had all bought for each other and I had bought for all of them, and not one person bought anything for their baby sister. I gathered my things and my daughter and we left. Afterwards, I told my husband that I had never been made feel like a part of the family, and that's one thing, but for them to exclude their own half-sister who is part of their blood is a complete different thing. I told him I will never spend a dime on his family because they are not mine. Also, they decided to do a family photo shoot and didn't include my daughter. Update: well, I had a long talk with my husband again, after reading all the responses I got. His opinion is that his children have no opinion of our age difference, however they just don't consider me part of their family, and he doesn't think that they look at our daughter as their sister, which I will completely respect because they are entitled to their own opinions as well as their own feelings. With me respecting their feelings comes, they're no longer part of my family. I will act accordingly as just their father's wife. As for my daughter, she is just that. My daughter Valentine's Day has come and gone, and I did not get a thing for his children or grandchildren. I splurged on my daughter. And it felt really great. I did remind him a week before Valentine's Day that it was coming up and that his grandkids would probably be expecting something. He neither bought anything for his children nor his grandchildren, nor our daughter, and he didn't buy anything for me as well. He made a comment about feeling some type of way of the separation between me and his family on almost as though it was my own decision. And I quickly reminded him that I am just respecting the wishes of his family and that they belong to him and they are nothing to me. In short, this marriage, most likely will not last for multiple reasons, not just the issues of this post. Also, I failed to leave out a key detail. He was married to another woman between his children's mother and mine and his marriage. And according to him, that woman treated his children very, very poorly. I don't know her, so I can't speak about her. I only know what he told me, and that story is completely one-sided. He also thinks that maybe the reason why his children treat me the way they do is due to past traumas from his second wife. Update 2, so IFB Messenger called his second ex-wife last night. I wasn't sure if she would even want to talk with me, being that I'm the new wife. But she did, and we had a pleasant conversation. She disclosed that she and his son, adolescent at the time, never had any issues. But that his daughter, also adolescent at the time, was a bit difficult. Think, princess mentality. She told me stories where my husband had blatantly disregarded her feelings when it came to his daughter treating her poorly. She said his daughter always made it clear that she was the queen of her daddy's castle. She eventually separated herself from interacting with his kids, which took a toll on their marriage. She also disclosed that she had found out that in the beginning of his and my relationship that he was spicy sleeping with his supervisor. This led me to confront my husband, and after hours of denial he finally admitted. For context, last summer, I caught him sexting his supervisor. I told him to leave, but we had a new baby. We started going to marriage counseling for the infidelity, and he swore he disclosed everything to me. But he never told me they had previously been solely involved, even during the first few months of our relationship. Now, I'm supposed to believe that after 9 years just out of the blue they started sexting at random, but nothing has continued to go on between all this time we've been married. Needless to say, I contacted a divorce attorney this morning. I'll keep you guys updated on the progress if my attorney feels like it will not have an impact on my case. Stories number 24. My coworker tickled another coworker, and now there is chaos. My company has had a relatively informal, somewhat relaxed working environment in the past, where colleagues generally got along well and we had a decent time together, even while working hard. Unfortunately, that balance has recently been upended in department I work in. 2 weeks ago, my coworker, Rachel, kicked the power strip under the desk in her cubicle, so she slipped off her heels and crawled under to pop it back, and the young woman in the cubicle behind her, Monica, had a serious lapse in judgment at this point. She knelt down and slipped an arm around Rachel's ankles when she was vulnerable and began tickling her feet. It was an unusual moment, to say the least, and reactions ranged from amusement to mild horror. If you asked Monica, she would say she only had a light hold to avoid getting kicked during a playful moment that went too far. If you asked Rachel, she'd say she was rendered largely immobile and humiliated. I didn't have the best view, but it looked to me as though reality was closer to Rachel's side. Our manager, Phoebe, rushed in after several seconds of laughing, shouting to break it up. It was a good thing she was there, because I thought for sure that Rachel was going to slug Monica otherwise. Phoebe walked Monica to HR, and we wondered if Monica was done for. Apparently, they allowed her to remain with the company, but told her she'd be dismissed if she put one toe out of line. I don't know the details, but I do know that Rachel was furious that the girl wasn't fired. Since that point, she has done everything she can to make Monica so unhappy that she feels compelled to quit, from passive-aggressive emails, to trying to rally coworkers to petition management to let her go, to bringing up the incident, as it's come to be called, at every available opportunity. As a result, Rachel is becoming difficult to work with, and Monica is becoming a basket case. It's gotten to the point where yesterday, I talked to Monica because I felt sorry for her. I'd heard her crying in the ladies' room that morning, only to have Rachel snarl at me later for trying to be friendly. I'm fairly certain that Phoebe knows what's happening, but is hesitant to address the issue with Rachel since she was the original victim. Phoebe is also rather hands-off in management style, so that isn't helping the situation. The environment is becoming increasingly uncomfortable, and our department being split on whether Monica should have been let go from the start hasn't helped, and I can sense people starting to take sides. Any advice would be appreciated. Update. First and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time to craft a thoughtful response to my letter. Monica, the tickler, left the company last week. I don't know all the details, but I reached out and she said that she and management came to an understanding, but wouldn't say more, and I didn't push. She was a middle child in a large family that showed a lot of physical affection, and tickling wasn't something vicious or mean as far as she was concerned, and it was probably that background that contributed to her lack of judgment. I won't make excuses for her actions, but I really feel bad for her and hope she finds another position and that she can learn from her mistake instead of being punished for it further. She is clearly an extrovert, and feeling cut off from people and caught in an atmosphere of hostility and isolation really affected her, though how much pressure was from Rachel and how much, if any, came from higher-ups, I couldn't say. I offered to have coffee and catch up, and if she takes me up on that, I might have more info in the future. As for Rachel, once Monica was gone, some of my coworkers expected her to gloat or strut around, but she's been awfully subdued. She doesn't talk much about anything except work, even inconsequential things. Perhaps that will change, but it's as if she didn't know how to react once she got what she wanted. As far as I know, our manager never confronted her, though I won't swear to that. Things seem to be getting back to normal, otherwise. Our boss brought some treats, and we did a couple of fun group exercises, and people have relaxed a bit. Still, I'm wary of how quickly things can get deeply uncomfortable. Thank you again for your time and your advice. Stories number 25. My husband's anger is getting worse. How do I protect my kids and myself? I, 36F, have been married to my husband, 38M, for almost 15 years. We have 2 kids, 10F and 7M, and while things have never been perfect, I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. Today, I asked him for a simple favor, helping me put away the groceries while I was prepping dinner. He sighed but got up, and I thought it was fine. But when I asked him to be careful stacking things in the fridge, he suddenly snapped. He slammed the fridge door so hard that bottles inside rattled, then he shoved a chair across the room and threw a dish towel at the counter. I just froze. The kids were in the living room and heard everything. This isn't the first time he's reacted this way. Before the holidays, he got really angry at our son for accidentally knocking over his coffee. He yelled so loudly that our daughter started crying. I told him his reaction was over the top, and he stormed out of the house. When he came back, he acted like nothing happened. I don't know what to do. He's never physically hurt me or the kids, but his anger is unpredictable and honestly, it's starting to scare me. I don't want my kids to grow up in a household where they feel like they have to walk on eggshells. I've tried talking to him, but he just brushes it off, saying I'm overreacting or that I nag him too much. I'm exhausted. I love him, but I don't know if I can keep living like this. How do I handle this? Should I push for counseling? Try to get him to see a doctor? Or is it time to seriously think about leaving? Stories number 26. My 26F boyfriend, 27M, of 10 years betrayed me with his best friend, 27M. My boyfriend Nick, M27, and I, F26, have been together for 10 years and are high school sweethearts. I truly believed we were building a life together. 2 summers ago, we moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment, and his best friend, Liam, M27, basically became a permanent guest. He crashed on our couch nearly every night, left messes everywhere, and acted like he lived there. I hated it, but Nick kept brushing off my concerns, saying Liam just needed a place to hang out. After a year of this, we decided to move into a slightly bigger place so Liam could have his own room instead of hogging our living room space. I thought this would fix things. But as soon as we moved in, Nick started spending every night in Liam's room playing video games. At first, I thought it was just guys being guys. They had been close since they were little, and I was just happy that Nick was able to spend more time with his close friend. But then, entire nights would go by where I wouldn't even see my own boyfriend. Sometimes, he wouldn't come to bed at all. Other times, he'd go straight from Liam's room to work the next day. I kept telling myself I was overthinking things. That Nick and Liam had been best friends forever, and I was being irrational. But deep down, I knew something felt wrong. Then, after months of emotional distance and our relationship slowly crumbling, Nick finally came clean. He told me that he's been sleeping with Liam almost every night. He was cheating on me with his childhood best friend for months. And here's the kicker. He claims he still loves me, but he also loves Liam, and he wants us to continue our relationship with Liam included. I feel betrayed, confused, and honestly disgusted. I can't even process what I'm supposed to do. I feel like this is unforgivable. He's acting like this is just something I should adjust to. Like I should be grateful he's even including me in his new relationship. I feel like a third wheel in my own home, but I also feel like if I walk away, I'm throwing away 10 years of my life. I don't know what to do. Has anyone else been in a situation like this? How do I even begin to deal with this? TLDR, been with my boyfriend for 10 years. We moved in together, but his best friend practically lived with us. Eventually, we all moved into a bigger place so the friend could have his own room. My boyfriend immediately stopped coming to bed, spending every night with his friend. After months of distance, he confessed he's been cheating on me with his best friend. Now he wants to stay with me but also include his friend in our relationship. Stories number 27. Got punched in the face by a customer. Happened a few hours ago. She busted my lip open in front of her 2 children because I asked to ID her and her friend for alcohol. One lady tried using her ID for both of them. I said that wasn't allowed and that I needed both IDs if either of them was going to drink. They got attitudes about it, and I started yelling at them once they stood up from the booth and began dangling one of the children, about 3, in the air by his arm like he was a doll. I couldn't watch that and not say anything. They continued to scream, telling me to mind my own business, and eventually ended up pushing me into the corner of my section. The lady walked into a table and literally pinned me in the corner with the table, before reaching over it and punching me in my face and busting my lip open. I'm still shaking. I've never been assaulted like that before. Right after the lady punched me, the other lady turns to my manager who was trying to get in between us and says in the calmest voice, she was very unprofessional. Like, are you kidding me? Are you fucking serious? The cops were called and I talked to 2 of them. They said that they're going to look for the car, and if they can't find it, the case will be sent to a detective. I hope they find them. We don't have cameras in or outside the building, but we got videos of their faces as well as their handicap sign number. I hope it's enough. We didn't get the license, the picture is too blurry. Sorry, I feel like a mess. My face is swollen and it hurts and I've never had something like this happen. I'm not confrontational, but when I saw her holding the kid like that, I couldn't stop myself from yelling at her. I hope he's okay. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, how are you feeling? Reply, I honestly don't know. I sat in the tub shaking for a long time. I feel weird and I don't know what to do. Commenter, take care of yourself. Possible things that might help after an assault, talk to someone you trust about it. Do mindfulness exercises like meditation or yoga. Avoid alcohol or drugs. Try to maintain your routines like sleeping, eating, and exercising. When you are faced with traumatic feelings, don't ignore them or try to minimize them. Confront them by talking about it or writing your feelings and thoughts down. It could have happened to anyone, and you were right to defend the child. Hopefully they will be able to catch the culprits and make sure they face punishment from their actions. Reply, thank you very much. I'm going to try and do what I can to keep myself mentally and physically healthy while I figure everything out. I really hope they catch them, too. Fingers crossed. Commenter, I hope you get a few rest days. This would have me shaken up big time. Reply, I actually had my 2 weeks in, anyway, so I told my manager that I wasn't going to finish my last 4 days. I don't want to go back there ever again. Commenter, go to the hospital. Make them file it as a workers' comp claim. Reply, I'm thinking about it, especially so they can have documentation of the injury. My entire upper lip is busted open and it hurts like crazy. Commenter, the mother of 2 is very abusive. But what I'm very angry about is their kids had to see their mother beat up a server over an alcoholic drink and ID. That's the kind of behavior I do not tolerate whatsoever. Hope CPS got involved too. Those kids need to be removed from their parents' care. Reply, that's what I snapped and started yelling back. She was throwing the one kid around and it was appalling to watch. I hope that, if they find them, I can bring that up in court as well. Those kids deserve better. Commenter, WTF. How does your restaurant not have cameras? That's unacceptable. If they do find them, take them to civil court so you can fuck them over criminally and civilly. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's one thing to take verbal abuse from guests, but to be physically assaulted at work is deplorable. Good luck to you. Reply, yeah, having no cameras has been an ongoing issue there and hopefully with this, they'll get their shit together and get some around the restaurant. I've been yelled at before, sure, we all have in the industry, but getting punched. Holy shit. I really can't wrap my head around it. It almost doesn't even feel like it really happened, but then I feel my swollen lip and I'm like, shit. Thank you, I appreciate it. Fingers crossed they find them and they get what's coming to them. Commenter, you know who's very good at tracking cars? Social media. Reddit did it, so did TikTok. Also, if I were you, I'd go to all the other liquor stores or ones that sell alcohol in town and show them their faces, ask if they've been there. No, really, I'd take a day off and do that. Reply, I did make a FB post so I have people in the area keeping an eye out. We actually did drive around to other restaurants in the area looking for their car afterwards. No luck unfortunately, but your idea is a pretty good one. Commenter, release city and physical descriptions. Reply, oh, I didn't know I was allowed to do that. This happened in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. They were 2 black women, one around 25 and one who looked younger than that. They had 2 small children 3 to 5 years old. The one lady was really skinny with long wavy hair, and the other was more heavy set with short hair. This is the picture somebody took of their car. Comment next day. Thank you, honestly I'm really scared with how I'm feeling right now. I have a lot of emotions and it's like I can't pinpoint any of them. I see every day how horrible people can be, but having something like this actually happen to me personally, it's almost eye-opening. I don't know. My brain feels fried. Also, I'm sorry for the things you had to go through. I wish you the best with your healing. Update post. I went to court for this today. The two ladies being charged were found guilty of harassment and each charged a maximum fine of $300 USD. They were not present at the time, which I thought meant they couldn't be charged and would be arrested for failure to show, but the judge passed the verdict, anyway, and said they have 30 days to pay or there would be a warrant out for their arrest. He also said if they wanted to fight it, we would be going to court again in the coming future, but because they weren't there, we didn't know if they were just going to pay the fine or not. We, me and the witnesses, talked to the detective and he said a few things. That they were claiming I was being racist towards them, I was following the law by requesting ID for alcohol. That they only hit me because they thought I was going to hit them, I was literally being backed into a corner, so, what? That one of them had a long history of other charges. All in all, I was honestly a little disappointed with the outcome because it felt as if they got off easy. I mean, I was attacked at work, and literally quit my job because I was scared to go back. I thought that the simple assault would stick, but I guess the detective thought only going for harassment was better. Regardless, it was over with. As we were all leaving the courtroom, I saw them both standing at the front desk. They finally showed up 40 minutes late. We walked out of the office with the detective. He said he wanted to walk with us just in case they tried to follow us because apparently, they were getting upset inside that they missed their court hearing. Too bad, oh well. You knew what time you were supposed to be there. Me and the witnesses and the detective were just kind of baffled. But, we said our goodbyes, and I headed home. About an hour passed. I was sitting in my living room passing time, distracting myself, when I got a phone call. It was from the detective. After we left the office, they made a threat to me at the magistrate's office in front of the people that work there. They said, and I quote, they were going to go to my old job and fuck her, me, up. They didn't know I had quit because of them. How dumb could you be? Did they really think they were going to get away with that? So, the detective told me that he was pressing another charge. Intimidation of a victim, which is a felony. Edit, he also mentioned terroristic threats. We are going back to court and I couldn't be more thrilled. It'll have to be a different court apparently, but regardless, they are getting even more charges now. I also think they got arrested at the office because the detective said something about them getting picked up, but I'm not sure. I was upset because it felt like they were getting off easy. Not anymore. I'm getting my justice. Thank everyone for the kind words and encouragement on the original post. I'll provide another update when I can, but it may take a while. Sum of comments. Commenter, are you not filing a civil lawsuit against them? Reply, I didn't, no. I was told to just let the cop press the charges and go from there. I haven't ever been in a situation like this, so it was a lot of new information to take in. I am considering suing now, though, for damages emotional distress. Especially after today. They clearly don't have any remorse for what they did. Commenter, talk to a lawyer, like yesterday. You were assaulted at your place of work, you suffered physical and psychological damages, had to quit your job and lost your source of income. They were convicted for the initial charges and are facing a felony. You can and should be compensated. I would not be surprised if a lawyer went after the person or persons who assaulted and your former employer. Reply, it's definitely going to be mentioned to a lawyer. I want to do a consultation to see where I can go from here because they were already charged with the harassment. I'm going to see what I can do. Thank you for the advice. Commenter, please pursue this. You have the right to be compensated if they get off easy. They might continue to harass and or threaten you or someone else. Reply, they will definitely be getting the intimidation of a victim charge. They aren't getting out of that. And I'm going to talk to some people about suing. Commenter, they need to learn. Though I feel bad for their children, they not only lost in this situation, but also in the parental lottery. Reply, you're right. I made sure to mention to the judge that they were holding one of the kids in the air by his arm, but it didn't really go anywhere. I really hope they will be okay, but with parents like that, I don't know. Commenter, but it's also weird that they weren't charged with failure to appear. Also, if they assaulted you, why just the harassment? Is it a small town? If I were you, I'd call the DA's office and press these questions. Did the court give you a no-contact order? Or a restraining order? Someone is being lazy and unfortunately, we have to stick up for ourselves when the law won't. Get some pepper gel as well. Reply, I was honestly kind of confused, too. Everybody involved was certain they'd be charged with failure to appear. When I asked the detective about it, he said they only get a warrant for their arrest if they don't pay the fine. As for the harassment bit, apparently, getting hit is included in that charge. When I talked to the detective when it first happened, he said they'd be getting 3 charges. Harassment, simple assault, and criminal conspiracy. I don't understand why they only got the one charge. No restraining order, no contact order was filed. I don't want to bad-mouth the detective, but while we were in the little side waiting room, he kept saying this was the easiest route. I told him multiple times I didn't want the easiest route when the incident first happened. I wanted to hit them hard and I would do whatever it took to do that because this whole thing was insane. Also, it's not a small town. I live in a major city. This is why I wasn't feeling much justice until I was told we're going back to court. Commenter, at least it was prosecuted. That's the sort of thing I could see LA police not responding, or responding but not looking for the suspects, or the prosecutor declining to prosecute. But I am surprised at how light the sentence was for person with a history of other charges, assuming the charges resulted in convictions. I could see a fine and probation or suspended sentence for a first offense, but not a habitual offender. Reply, one of the girls has a past history of theft charges, and apparently, some kind of domestic altercation with an ex-boyfriend. Because of those I also thought she would get a harsher sentencing. When the judge did his verdict, he said he was charging them the maximum fine, which was only $300. I'm assuming that's because it was just a harassment charge and not the simple assault. When I looked it up, simple assault was a lot more.